A very warm good evening to one and all present here. It is an immense pleasure to welcome you all for the today's CPE program on Code of Conduct and Professional Ethics. We heartily welcome today's speaker, CA Jomon K George sir, to occupy the dais. Can we have a huge round of applause for him? Now we have an ICI motto song.
Yeshasupteshu jagrati Yeshasupteshu jagrati Dharmashastram cha mean economic principles, earth, and ethical considerations, dharma, which are central to the work of accountants. The entire world is deliberating about the impact of climate change coupled with disruptions of artificial intelligence. India has given philosophy of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam to the world and successfully hosted G20 summit on this theme and also launched Global Biofuels Alliance. The accounting profession also has an enormous responsibility to guide the work, where accountability meets innovation so that vision can be converted into solution. The Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, being the world's largest accounting body after the successful hosting of WCOA 2022 and GLOBAC, proudly presents before the World Forum of Accountants 2025. Where accountability meets innovation for a sustainable planet. The world's brightest minds will exchange insights, explore emerging trends, and unlock the possibilities for the profession, where foundation will be laid to shape the vision for the future of accounting profession. Hosted at Yashobhoomi, the largest convention and exhibition center in the heart of India's capital, New Delhi, inaugurated by the Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi, is all set to host the congregation of accountants from around the world. And while you're here, experience the vibrant culture and heritage of New Delhi, a city where history meets modernity, offering unforgettable memories.
World Forum of Accountants, an experience of 3 days, insightful discussion, groundbreaking innovations, and unparalleled networking opportunities.
With immense pride, we invite you to WOFA 2025, taking place, happening from January 31st to February 2nd, 2025 at the magnificent Yashobhoomi, New Delhi. Experience 3 days of insightful discussions, groundbreaking innovations, and unparalleled networking opportunities. World Forum of Accountants 2025 is where you need to be, where accountability meets innovation, AI for a sustainable planet. Join us at WOFA 2025. from January 31st to February 2nd, 2025 at Yashobhoomi, New Delhi. For more details, visit wofa.icai.org.
Yeah, to read it, I'm going to say World Forum of Accountants is going to be conducted in New Delhi on 31st of Jan, 1st of Feb and 2nd of Feb. Now I'm very happy to welcome our speaker, Mr. C.A. Jomon K George, sir. He is a fellow member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India with 32 years of diversified practice experience. He was the chairman of Southern Indian Regional Council of CA Institute from 2019 to 20. He was a faculty of auditing at the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. He has taught more than 10,000 CA students. He was a regular resource person on professional circuit on accounting and auditing standards and corporate audit. He has done more than 9,000 presentations. He is also a peer review trainer. He was a member of Auditing and Assurance Standard Board of ICAI. He was a chairman of ICAI Ernakulam from 2002 to 2003. He has travelled extensively in UK, Middle East and the Far East. He was the past president of Rotary, Cochin Central and member of various social clubs. He was the Honorable Treasurer, Regional Sports Centre at Kochi. He was the secretary for the Kerala Management Association for the year 2021 to 22. He was a member of advisory board of St. Teresa's College at Ernakulam. He was the author of book Trials, Reflection of Personal and Professional Life, which was released in February 2021. Now we are going to have our technical section on Code of Conduct and Professional Ethics. What is actually Code of Conduct? It is a set of rules and practices that outline how people of organizations should behave and what is expected of them. What is professional ethics? It is a set of principles that govern the behavior of professionals in workplace, which is a set of rules that all the members of profession must follow. Now I am very happy to introduce a resource person to have this section. We request C.A. Bhaskaran sir to adorn the share and present the memento to the Honorable Speaker.
Respected senior members, my dear colleagues, the staff team, Sonia, the newly joined Chartered Accountant at SIRC, Mangai who did the introduction, Ramakrishnan and the team have been hosting and organizing these programs. Once again, warm good evening to all of you. I'm extremely delighted to stand before you this fine evening. I would say back in Chennai for many reasons, and to deal with this topic which is of great importance, contemporary importance, Code of Conduct and Code of Ethics. That is, we call it Code of Conduct and Professional Ethics. Very thoughtfully planned by SIRC at this point of time. So when the chairman called me on my way back from the airport, Geeta called me from Bangalore, said, "Sir, we are very happy there are 140 registrations." And at this point of tax filing, I was thinking, why so many registrations? Normally it is much less. Of course, we have only half of that in the auditorium. Because there are two ways after your evening coffee, you can go that way or this way. It's a choice one has to make. Happy that so many of you turned out. As we always say, I think it is the unquenchable thirst for knowledge and updation that brings many of us here. But there are other compelling reasons. The dire shortage of CPRs, a lot of things which brings in here. And of course, I think there's also a scare about what are the things we can do, what are the things we should not do, particularly in the wake of NAFRA, NFRA flexing its muscle and becoming a superpower above the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. Many of the areas which were our monopoly, which is our pure domain, with not much of governmental intervention, is fading out today. And you know what is happening to SA 600, and first going to the extent of saying that the new standards, SQMs and things are not really valid. They have even used the term void. So probably that scare also brings us many of us to sessions on Code of Ethics. All that apart, I'm extremely happy that I'm here because I will take 2 minutes. I have very pleasant memories of Chennai, not Chennai, Madras. I did my articles here in Verma and Verma from 88 to 91. So all the deviations that we took, the Josiah Street, pleasant memories of me cruising through on my second-hand Bajaj Chetak scooter from 88 to 91 in Chennai. Our office used to be on Cathedral Road. I stayed in Loyola's hostel. I stayed in Ananagar. Last time I was in Jambulingam Street, Arcade Lodge, where a lot of Kerala students used to stay there, and some of the cinema actors also used to stay there. So pleasant memories of those days. Then later in 2012, we got elected into the regional council. So 9 years I was frequenting Chennai, and 1920, with all your good wishes and prayers and support, I could become the chairman of the region. And so coming to Chennai is homecoming for me, and so happy that I put up in Ranjit. Ranjit also is the hotel just opposite it. Ranjit and Bangro has so many memories. My father was the general manager of finance at Cochin Shipyard, and he used to come here for the CNDG comments. And CNDG, the resident office is here in IOC Bhavan. I think it is still there. So all pleasant memories. And to add to all that was the Adavial this evening. We used to come to the reading room upstairs during the study holidays. So go to the income tax canteen. Adavial was only 6 rupees. And we used to get very good buttermilk there. So all pleasant memories. So I went back to 30 years, 32 years. And so happy. So all pleasant memories. So with that, stand here and deliberate on this particular topic. And it is structured in a way as we go by, we'll see. It is, as you know, the revised Code of Ethics is based on the 2018 edition. I hope it is visible for the backbenchers. Or if you're not planning to, you can take the front rows. The revised code is based on the 2018 edition of Code of Ethics issued by the ISBA of IFAC, and it was effective from 1st July 2020. Now, if you read the code, it uses the letter R for requirements, it's mandatory requirements, and A for application material. Those are not referred to. This is how we would start. We'll touch about some of the basics, see the overall structure, and move on and see the breakup of Schedule 1, Schedule 2. And of course, towards the end of the presentation, we'll have the recent decisions of the Ethical Standards Board. Some of them are very, very interesting. So, Code of Ethics 2019 issues guidance of the Council. Further, there is a change from should to shall, which adds more mandatory force to the requirements, and they are clearly demarcated. Hence, non-compliance with provisions of the Code will be deemed as violation of Clause 1 of Part 2 of Schedule of the Chartered Accountants Act 1949. The basic compliance, broad compliance requirement, I put it in red letters because a member of the institute, whether in practice or not, shall be deemed to be guilty of professional misconduct if he contravenes any of the provisions of the Act or the regulations. That brings us to the contents at a glance. Volume 1, I think it's not readable, I'll read it out for you. Complying with the Code, fundamental principles and conceptual framework. That is applicable to all professional accountants. The sections are 100 to 199. And professional accountants in service, that is for our members in industry, some of you are here, to 200 to 299. Professional accountants in public practice, Part 3, which is years in practice. Independence for audit and review engagements, years in practice again. And independence for assurance engagement and other audit and review engagements. We'll see all this in detail as we go by. And volume 2 is about accounting and auditing standards, which requires a lot of discussion because the level of compliance is still very, very poor. Chartered Accounts Act is reproduced first and second schedule. Council guidelines for advertisement, Council general guidelines, and self-regulatory measures which are recommendatory in nature. That's volume 2, and volume 3 is a case law referencer. It is incorporated all the decided and published case laws of both these schedules. So this is volume 1, volume 2, and volume 3 of the Code of Ethics. The major changes are responding to NOCLA. NOCLA is a term which is very commonly heard in the listed space now. Some of us are not in that sphere, not be very familiar. Non-compliance with laws and regulations. I hope some of you are aware about SA 250, which talks about compliance with laws and regulations in the context of an audit. Restriction for taxation services to audit clients. Today, typically what happens is, you and I are not different. We have a client which is a private limited company with say 20 crores of turnover. We are the statutory auditor, we are the tax auditor, we used to be the GST auditor also. And then we would do working capital assessment, we do all the services, tax filing, GST monthly filing, ROC filing and all that. So there are restrictions, one should be aware about that. Prohibition on management responsibility to audit clients. In the whole country, there is a misconception. I hope all of you are familiar with section 144 of the Companies Act. 144, the section is rightly, the section number is correct. 144 in Malayalam we say 144, Tamil also I think 144. 144 is a curfew, is it not? Curfew is that it's a blanket prohibition on statutory auditors of a company to render multidisciplinary services. Me as a chartered accountant can come to Chennai and give any service to an audit client of yours. There's absolutely no problem. Bhaskar sir can come to Cochin and do any kind of service. There's absolutely no restriction. But once you are the statutory auditor of the company, then independence issues are of paramount importance.
Firm as well as any partner.
100%. Yeah, it is equally important. Firm as well as partner. For that purpose, it is interchangeably used because if the firm is a statutory audit, if you say that the partner will do it, then if you are a partner of firm, the strict sense of it, unless you have, even if you have independent practice, you normally do all the attestation in the name of the firm. We'll come to that in detail. And restrictions on taxation services, prohibition on management services, and 15% restriction on fees from a single client. It is to be consecutively 2 years, duty to communicate with those charged with governments. This will expand in the next few slides. Now, if your total fee is, let us say, 1 CR, 100 lakhs, 1 crore, and then one single client is giving you more than 15 lakhs, then you should inform that to those charged with governance of the company. What is the spirit of it? More than 15% of your revenue is coming from a single client. So you would be very loyal, you would oblige too much. So the spirit of the entire code of ethics, code of conduct and professional ethics, as you know, I'm seeing very, very senior members. In fact, Bhaskar sir was telling me that there's a member with membership number 6718. 67. Sir, if you are there, 6718 is a senior member. Maybe he has left. But I salute the spirit if he has come here. My membership number is 202144. I qualified in 1992. So that is something which is very striking, that senior members are actively practicing and concerned about this. Maybe not there. So this is 15%. These are some of the changes which has happened recently. And coming to volume 1, as we slowly elaborate, the fundamental principles are something which are very basic. But today, if you ask me, in the sphere of audit, I think audit has substantially been reduced to a compilation. Putting 32 years of my practice, I have been teaching auditing for 20 long years at the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, Ernakulam branch, not in any private academy. And the first class on auditing we used to teach SA 200. It was basic principles governing an audit those days. Now it is the independent auditor, subjective, and the discharge of audit in compliance with essays. There are standards in auditing. So therefore, these are basic principles which are should be engraved in the system. It should be part of the work DNA of every chartered accountant in practice. Integrity, objectivity, professional competence and due care. Now, how do you remain professionally competent is by regularly updating. Today we have a huge challenge of members not updating themselves. A lot of changes are happening every day. It is very dynamic. Earlier we used to say Income Tax Act is dynamic because changes every year. Now look at the Companies Act 2030. Those who are in corporate law practice. But since I am seeing younger members, I am requesting the younger members to reinvent the corporate law practice. Don't pledge it to company secretaries. We have done that. We can be carefully, if we can sectoralize or compartmentalize or verticalize rather, then we can have all these practices back in place. It's really lucrative. From incorporation to compliances to filing if need be liquidation and NCLT practice. I hope some of you are insolvency professionals as well. It offers huge opportunities. Today we are crying out, some of us are cribbing, saying that the conventional areas of practice are fading out. Not without reason. The bank audit is not there because most of the banks feel that the year-end statutory audit does not bring in any value addition. So there's more of thrust on concurrent audit, internal inspections, which are happening regularly. year-end audit, which is mostly post-mortem, doesn't begin on the kind of value addition. So therefore, it's very important that we invent, and also senior members should blend with the youngsters. A lot of youngsters who are aspiring would like to have the experience and the muscle, or rather the resources of a firm blended together. We'll come to that a little later. So being competent is very, very important. Confidentiality of information today, we come across so much of sensitive information. Data integrity, data security is a huge challenge. On the one side, we say this, but the client data is flying around. Audit season, what happens is the accountant of the client sends the entire tally data by mail to, it happened in our office that it was sent to the mail ID of the lady student, lady article who did the audit last year. She had completed her articles and gone. But she was kind enough to share it with us. The such thing happened, but then as chartered account, confidentiality is very, very important, and of course professional behavior. These are the basic principles. And the conceptual framework is that the professional accountant shall apply the conceptual framework to identify, evaluate, and address threats to compliance with fundamental principles. We are facing so many threats. We'll come to that a little later. And there is a lot of thrust on professional skepticism. Paragraph 120. Now, professional skepticism. Sorry, sir. Yeah. Sorry.
Confidentiality. I want to ask you one question. What is the limitation of the confidentiality? What is the limitation? Because you are answerable to the client. Client gives you information to you, which is thinks you will keep it confidential. But when you go to have a meeting with the income tax department, for example, they ask a similar question, which you know the answer. Where is the confidentiality comes in?
A very good question. So if you are representing the client before the income tax, and what you're going to discuss with the department, you should essentially discuss with the client. Confidentiality is talking about this going into the public domain. When you are representing the client before the income tax, for accompanying the client to CBI, I will go one step further. In fact, we sometimes assist the client because the client is so shaken when he is summoned by the ED or the CBI. So you discuss with the client, and we have to share the information with the department. There you are more under a statutory obligation to the income tax department, because when you get the wakalat or when you get the authorization, and to the client under a very, very, I would say, that professional obligation to get the assessment completed. Even then, I'm sure as a senior member you would know that if we not divulge, all that is required to be divulged. Is it not? So confidentiality mostly in the respect of, particularly the students. There is, if you look at, I'm not saying from the book, have you seen Form 102, some of you have read of articles. 102, we have to, it's a contract actually for articleship. There is an oath of confidentiality by the student. The students also come across information. They stay in hostels and exchange of information. Coming back to a member, this should not be, I've always seen, if you have the same clients from the same industry, 3 clients from the same industry. Kerala, we have this rubber and latex, so we have latex gloves. So client A is more interested about the results of the client B. Jomon, what's happening to how's the turnover results and all that. This loose talk should not happen. But when you are before an authority like income tax or NCLT or wherever, you will be required to divulge information. You are not prohibited from that. I hope I made the point clear, sir. We can have more questions, absolutely. Yeah.
But you need to say that you should keep confidentiality at the end of the income tax also.
That's a very tricky question you're putting me to.
Like for example, you are just questioned by the enforcement directorate and you know the answer. That this fellow has just done a transaction, a foreign exchange transaction, which is not 100% legal. What is your confidentiality? Where does it stop?
Sir,
I keep that in mind and say, I don't know anything, or what he has done is right, or you have to say he is wrong. What is, because I see in the papers nowadays, even auditors are being questioned, auditors are being arrested. But where is the confidentiality that comes in now?
In lighter vein, I put it that you have more grey hair than me, so you should know the answer. You should judiciously represent the client before the authorities. Confidentiality here is slightly different from what you are trying to say now. That's a different issue altogether. Confidentiality is the information as auditors which we come across should not be let loose. Should not be let loose. That is sensitive information, particularly if you have competing clients. And even unless you are under I would say that legal obligation to divulge, you should not divulge. That's the spirit of it. But when you are representing the client before this, you have to judiciously do it. Even then, there could be secrets untold.
Now, for protecting the client, we are not giving any answer. Simply we say, I don't know.
No, you can't say that. You can't say.
No. Officers are inquiring. For protecting the client, we are saying that I don't know. So whether it is...
Yeah, I put it this way, you should say only the truth, but all the truths need not be told.
Sir, I will give you an example. I did an audit for a guy, for example, and he has done a transaction saying that this money I am just transferring to the seller, overseas. And he says that he has done the transfer or whatever, but the money has been taken out from the account. And in the end of, after some time, after everything is done, the department of FIU, we call it as FIU, the Financial Intelligence Unit, they come to you and come and ask you, I say, this fellow has got a deposit in the bank of the amount what you are talking about, let's say 10 million rupees or $10 million, and why you did not check that one. I told them, I said, he says he has already transferred the money, but the money has been kept in his bank account separately, not in the company's account, but in separate account. But where does the confidentiality comes in now? Now the enforcement director or FIU, whatever you call, they come to you with the specific information that the money is there in the bank, which you don't know. He didn't tell me. He didn't tell me that he is keeping the money in the bank. Where does the confidentiality comes in now?
Now, before going into confidentiality, sir, there is, I think here, since you mentioned that, I'm sorry to use this term, if the amount is substantial, there is primarily an audit lapse. The audit has not been, I would say, that done properly, because that was left out, if it's a substantial volume and value. So, then it is the clear evidence when they come and ask you that, why didn't you check this? Then you'll have to acting, no? It is not the question of confidentiality. It is that they have coming with the fresh evidence that which you probably left out. It may not be your example, you are just giving an example. The auditor left out to check. And then you have to essentially reveal that you have to agree to that information. Because in the bank transaction, if it's a major amount, if it's an overseas remittance, the proof should have been insisted upon while doing the, that's what I'm trying to say. I'll come back to you. In most of the audits, we are leaving out details of transactions. 96-97, when Y.S. Malagam, seniors would remember, Malagam sir came to Cochin for MC Joseph's conference. He was saying that we're talking about technology and all that, we are leaving out details of transactions. Talk about technology, we are not so, we don't do vouching, and I remember, doing a lot of vouching, verification, physical stock verification. Today's stock inventories which are there in the balance sheet, the auditor signs is basically an Excel sheet sent by the client's accountant. We do not go and verify whether the stock exists or not. So this is the question, but the confidentiality has to be understood in the spirit of saying that the sensitive information you come across during an audit should be kept with yourself. Your team should also be instructed very clearly, and that unless you are under a legal obligation, that should not be divulged. We'll discuss toward the end, sir. We have a lot of slides to present, but I'm open for more discussions. Professional behavior now. So we are talking about professional skepticism. Professional skepticism has always been there, but then it really became, in 2008, first time in 2008, when a new preface was issued to standards and auditing, the whole concept changed. And in 2013 Act, what happened? Auditing standards are today part of the law book. Most of us still not aware. 2013 Act, the most powerful section, the most demanding section, the most relevant section for practicing chartered accountants under the Companies Act 2013 is, and some of the juniors support me, young members. This is a section which is of paramount importance for the statutory auditor under the Companies Act 2013. We are reporting that today also probably we have signed an auditor's report. 143. Let me take a short detour. Now, Companies Act, two important chapters. Chapter 9 deals with accounts of companies. Section 128 to 138. And what is the only change this year in the auditor's report? Audit trail. You said my book has trials. It is not trials, it is trails. In Malayalam, it is Pinpadagal. Pinpadagal is the route which we have taken. Okay, that is trails, not tracks. Okay. Now, trail, the audit trail is only reporting. Where does that emanate from? It emanates from section 128 and the accounts rules and the allied auditors rules under which we are supposed to report. Now, chapter 9 deals with books of accounts of companies, 128 to 138. You see, the Companies Act is drafted in such a way. It talks about accounts of companies. What is section 135? CSR. 132, NAFRA. 138, internal audit. All this is coming under the chapter on accounts of company. So it is an act which is made in haste. I'm not spending time there. Now, what's the next chapter? Chapter 10 of the Companies Act 2013 is audit and auditors. 143 falls in there. 143 talks about powers and duties of auditors and auditing standards. The very caption of the section itself has auditing standards in it. And 143 subsection 9 is a single line, but many of us have not seen, taken care of and started complying with. How many years is the Act old? 11 years old, Companies Act 2013. We still say that the new Act is 11 years old, still evolving. Company Law Committee is still there. And you know what they are doing with the Companies Act 2013? They are decriminalizing it. Provisions are so punitive. If you look at chapter 5, deposits, you have penalties running into crores of rupees plus 6 months of free food and accommodation. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. 6 months of free food and accommodation on top of penalty, or with both. Therefore one has to be extremely careful in dealing with corporate audits and corporate affairs. So I was talking about 143. So auditing standards have become mandatory. SA 200 in 2008, first time they highlighted the need for professional skepticism. Professional skepticism means having a doubting mind, having a questioning mind. I would normally, in casual terms, I'll put it saying that not accepting or not taking people, explanations, documents for granted. Or our seniors have told us in layman's terms, taking everything with a pinch of and pepper. I'm from Kerala. That is what professional skepticism is all about. Sir, in your case, if it's your case, I don't want to highlight that again. So there, an explanation he didn't say is not an answer for the auditor. It's not an excuse for the auditor. The auditor has to essentially do deep dives. In the given environment where there's self-interest, there are fraudsters everywhere, one has to be extremely careful. So that is professional skepticism. And I hope some of you are reading the Business Line regularly. And our friend Mohan R. Levy from Bangalore, good friend of mine, writes regularly, and he has recently written 2 articles on SA 600 and how the audit profession should, de-stress itself. And quite in the news is the very unfortunate death of Anna Sebastian, a young girl from Kerala who was working with EY, and out of work pressure, that's quite on the news. So Mohan was writing, saying that, in one of his earlier articles, he said, the entire profession of chartered accountancy and its members have been clinging on to the cotton mills, Kingston Cotton Mills case, delivered back in 1872 in England. What did that say? The audit is only a watchdog and not a blender. Now, gone are those days. The regulators becoming more stringent. Now, Fry is flexing his muscle. We are under the lens by everyone and see. We are seen with suspicion. So you have to be extremely careful. And we have been having this discussion in Delhi. So all of you know Amarjit Chopra ji, a past president, and he is kind of spokesperson for the institute, very senior past president. We were discussing this. We say that, Are Baba, what are you talking about? Watchdog, blood down. Baba, anyway we are dogs, at least bark here. Now, this is the spirit of professional skepticism, which most of us are still not aware of. So when you're talking about the conceptual framework and understanding, we're taking things for granted, explanations for granted, documents for granted. I was in Ahmedabad just 10 days back. Not 10 days. On October 2nd, I was in Ahmedabad. So I went very close to the Sabarmati Ashram, but it was closed. I went to the Riverside Park. If you have been to Ahmedabad recently, huge change. I had earlier gone for Blowpack, I had gone. So let us go to Wofa also. The video was quite striking. So Wofa Delhi is Jan 31st, 1st and 2nd of February. Off season, I think all of us should really go and enjoy and take a lot of networking and knowledge inputs as well. Insightful sessions, that's what Ranjit Kumar Agarwal, president, was saying. So I was there and I went to do a due diligence. I was really shocked. The turnover of the company is 999 crores. And the purchase is 998.50 crores. The company has become a skeleton now. A client of mine wanted to take over a company with that kind of thresholds, turnover limits, but then it was really scary. How the accounts are maintained, the bank statements, everything looks so natural. It's audited. 3 years audited. We have only the broken period of 24-25 from 1st April till 30th September. So where if I don't know how the audit was done, so it's very scary. So in the audits we are, getting a trial balance from the client, preparing financial statement, and that too again. Let me tell you, I'm not saying that the person standing at the podium is a paragon of all virtues. We all make mistakes. I've had a very bad experience with one of the government audits where there was a lapse of an oversight. The student had done that, I did not see, and resulted in a lot of issues. So one has to be extremely careful. So here, the compliance with the Schedule 3. How many of us really seriously looked at Schedule 3 and its compliances? Why is that when a client of ours goes for a private equity or an IPO, the bigger firm of accountants start saying that these financial statements have to be restated to be presentable before private equities and IPOs investors. Restatement is a shame, isn't it? So there is a need for fresh learning, and a lot of fresh inputs have to come in. There was a revised Schedule 3 or the CARO 2020 with accounting standards which are being amended from time to time. Index for larger companies, and in the discharge of the audit standards and auditing, therefore they are all very, very, very important. We are giving it a go because we have been doing this for so many years, and let it go on. Technology, seniors have to essentially, I'm not saying that, we have of course been treading on the path which I have laid, but then today things are changing. So without a young team, I have 8 partners, 5 of them are my own students. So that's the way we have tried to develop a practice, and a lot of things are changing, so we have to get up. So professional skepticism is given maximum importance in conceptual framework. So let us start taking things with a pinch of salt and pepper. Now these are the threats we have been talking about. The self-interest threat is that, you have been, like we were talking about, this audit is a very important audit for me, and therefore the self-interest threat. Self-review threat is what Sarah has been talking about, is that the financial statements which have been prepared, or rather audited by you, not prepared. Did I say it right? Yes, prepared. How many of our clients are capable of preparing Schedule 3 financial statements? How many of our clients have qualified accountants? Sir is smiling because he's asking how many of our clients have accountants? We take all the burden. One of the things to reduce work pressure is don't take all the problems for the clients. I would always say take life easy. My friends would know that that has been the way I've been. Working late into the night, developing health problems. Of course, that's all very, very, very undesirable. So self-interest threats we have talked about. Self-review threats is where you are the auditor, you have done the audit, and you are representing the same case before the income tax. Now, strictly speaking, there is a restriction. We are taking it for granted, like an audit client, which is a private limited company, when there is income tax notice, we don't call it a hearing now, it is all faceless now, and therefore we come to that. So there's a self-review threat, because something which you have done, you cannot contradict, like what has happened in your case. Advocacy threat is where you talk about the client, you're very loud about the client than the client himself. Is having such and such turnover, is my client and all that. So that is the advocacy threat. Familiarity threat is that, sir, he is my auditor for 25 years, sir. His sister's daughter is married to my brother's son. This typically happens. Nothing wrong, but then that's a familiarity threat we are talking about. And intimidation threat is where the client would, we study Contract Act, the coercion. The relationship between two is that one is in a position to dominate the will of the other. The client is such a dominant position. That's where the 15% threshold they are put. Your 80% of your revenue comes from me. So sign here. I'm not verbatim saying this, but indirectly we have all gone through those kind of pressures. So these are the threats which one should be aware of, and one should be maximum possible insulating and from himself from. This is NOCLA. NOCLA for the time being, it is not applicable in the unlisted space. I'll do that first so that becomes easy. Applicable only to listed entities and applicable only to audit assignments. In case of professional accountants in service, applicable to employees of listed entities. Normally it is applicable only for members in practice, but NOCLA is made applicable to members who are employees of, or CFO of a finance company which is going for IPO. It's an IPO mart now. IPO mart. So I'm happy that taking the photographs, but I'll surely leave the slide deck with SIRC and request the office to share with the members who come. You can do that. Anyway, you can remove my name also. It's okay. And I'm not contesting elections this time, so I can very confidently say this. Okay. Going back to this talks about recognizing a situation which put difficult and stressful situation to the professional accountant, and accepting that he has prima facie an ethical responsibility not to turn a blind eye to the matter which is non-compliant with laws and regulations. Now we'll move on to that specific issue. Laws and regulations that have a direct effect on the determination of material amounts and disclosures in the financial statements. In fact, it can happen that, this one speaker was talking about a situation like this. When you're doing the audit, you have a shocker's notice from the Pollution Control Board, PCB, saying that your factory is in an ecologically fragile area and the effluents are being discharged to the rivers or the lakes and things. There's a shocker's notice. So what is the situation there? And then the second step is that, after some time they replied, they were not convinced, there was an inspection, and this is stop memo. This is stop memo. So the entire thing has been stopped. And there's a penalty, there's a penalty levy of 50 lakhs. So that is situation 2. The third one is as a stop memo. When it comes to stop memo, see, many of us would think that it's a stop memo and we provide for the penalty 50 lakhs. Which is a louder question, which is a louder concern, louder issue, a bigger issue? Brilliant. Going concern. The factory may not be able to. You have invested 5-6 crores in set up a factory in the wrong place, and here is probably there could be one environmentalist. We find fault with them, standing with the industry, but today when we talk about Chennai floods and all that, see the constructions have happened that encroach all the waterways and streams and things like that. So therefore, it can happen that one particular person's issue, and that will open the eyes of the regulator and saying that, come on, here is an ecologically fragile area, or this is a dense residential area. You cannot have for example, a quarry here, or a mine here, or a polluting industry here. Kerala, we have the river Periyar. Those who have been to Shabarimala, during the starting point, source point of Periyar, you would have taken the Snanam. That is, of course, so. There, what happens is, on the banks of the Periyar river, there are a lot of industries, chemical industries. Sometimes the river flows green, next day it is yellow, next day it is red, and the fish and the ecosystem is completely destroyed. So it can happen as stop memo. So that is the way we look at the NOCLAR from various aspects of things. So that is the first part of it. Other laws and regulations, complaints which may not be fundamental to the entity's business and operations, or to avoid material penalties. So the spirit of SA 250, if you blend this with NOCLAR, what happens is that if the non-compliance has a telling impact on the accounting and audit function, that is the term which SA 250 has used. Accounting and audit function, which means to say that it should either be shown as a contingent liability, a liability should be provided for, or a detailed note has to be given in the notes on accounts. Now talking about notes on accounts, in the IFRS and Ind AS terminology, what are notes called generally? They're called explanatory information and breakdowns of items which are aggregated and shown in the balance sheet and in the schedules. We don't call it schedules anymore in notes. Disaggregation of that and explanatory information. This has to be given. So therefore, notes have to be as explanatory as possible. We recently finalized an audit where it was a shipyard, a service shipyard, where the slipway had, was capitalized belatedly. Now then there is a technical person who joined part of the management. He said that, the depreciation should have been accelerated because the capitalization happened only in 21-22. Whereas we became the auditors from 22-23 under audit rotation. And the revenues had started, the whole slipway had become functional from 15-16. And there was a major spurt in the revenue with that investment. So he said, we should engage a valuer, go back to 15-16 and start depreciating it, though technically in the books it was capitalized only in 21-22. The asset was actually put to use and started earning revenues from 15-16 itself. So the reworking has been done. We very objectively looked at the report and found that it's reasonably okay. But even with that, we insisted on a very detailed note in the notes on accounts and we are putting it as an emphasis of matter, EOM, as per SS 706 in the auditor's report, not as an audit qualification. Emphasis of matter paragraph is something which can be used lightly. It is less intense and less harmful from the client's angle than the audit qualification or similar. But we have issued adverse in the government company where we were removed by the CNDG. We had to issue an adverse report, and CNDG Kerala summoned us, and I was asked, Mr. George, you have issued an adverse report. Yes, sir, we have issued an adverse report. So as per SS 705, modification auditor's report. And the standard request is to give the reason. Sir, if you have time, there are 10 reasons. All the 10 reasons were listed in the auditor's report. I started one by one saying that. And how do we qualify a report? All of you are familiar. Basis for qualified opinion, basis for adverse opinion, basis for disclaimer of opinion, and finally basis for adverse opinion. Adverse, the clean report, That's how it is. All the 10 points were reiterated, read out before CLDG, and then he started then against the company's representatives and asked them, how do you think that an auditor can give a claim report with all these inherent problems in the company? In case of inventories, receivables, the invoices without EVA bills, there are a lot of things, dispatch proof, all those things. So that happened. So coming back to this, the key point is where if it has an impact on the accounting and auditing function, then it has to be, it become a new term. I think youngsters would know that probably it would require an accounting hit. Accounting hit. An accounting entry, seniors we say accounting entry. It will not take a hit this year, it will take a hit only next year. That's a term which new gen use. So that's how it is. And examples of regulations which have to be addressed are fraud, corruption, bribery, money laundering. PMLA is huge now. Even in UAE, where funds used to have absolutely free flow, they put a lot of restrictions. UAE is disciplining itself. Dubai is wanting to be, I would say, that a regulated, decent capital of, financial capital. So because it was, all money was happening. I have an office in Dubai from 2011 on, and the practices there are completely different from what we used to. But ever since VAT came, UAE VAT, though they call it a VAT, it is GST, so on goods and services, and corporate tax from last year at a basic level of 375,000 dirhams. They are pegged it at $100,000. So $100,000 is 375,000 dirhams, UAE dirhams, and it has started. Accounting discipline has come. Because to get the UAE the VAT input, the accounting has to be there. Earlier it was not there, even for large companies. So things are changing. So terrorist financing by proceeds of crime, securities market, insider trading, etc. A lot of things are happening. And the securities market is gone for a 6. It is leave India, go to China as a new slogan, it seems. And US Fed, of course, the chances that funds further flawed, FIs are selling out, and so therefore market is in a slightly shaky situation. We're talking about IPOs, but a lot of IPOs are floating around. Hyundai listed very low before less than the issue price. So it will become an IPO market. When the secondary market is buoyant, normally a lot of IPOs will become float, and people have so much of disposable money is getting invested. That was only incidental. So the scope of laws and regulations. NOCLA, the key point is that the professional accountant is required to address NOCLA only when, and it is encounters the same in the course of providing professional service. Appropriate authority for the purpose of disclosure will depend on the nature of the matter. So here the point is, how loud should you blow the whistle? The auditor, it always said that the auditor failed to blow the whistle. I blew the whistle, but nobody heard it. I blew it like this. But should I, that's what I say. So it could be SEBI in the case of a listed company. If you are doing the NBFC, it could be RBI. So the whole point is to say that as an auditor, if the issue is likely to jeopardize public interest, it is likely to have that kind of a huge impact, then you should not. Normally, the auditor reports to the shareholders and be done with it. You should go next level to the regulator and do it. That is where confidentiality matters will completely take a different. I was trying to relate to your particular point. Now we come back to some of the specifics. Management responsibilities. Professional accountant shall not assume management responsibility for an audit client. But look at this. However, providing advice and recommendations to assist the management of an audit client in discharging responsibilities is not assuming a management responsibility. So you provide an advice and then it is not a management responsibility. It is slightly a dicey, shaky situation. Administrative services to an audit client does not usually create a threat. Word processing services, are we giving it? Preparing administrative statutory forms for the client approval, submitting such forms as instructed by the client, monitoring statutory filing dates, advising an audit of the client, etc., does not usually create a threat. That is what the code says. Tax return preparation. Tax return preparation is not a threat. Tax calculations for the purpose of preparing accounting entries that will subsequently be audited by the firm creates a self-review threat. When you are hearing for the first time, this is my probably 5th or 6th presentation, repeat for me. Day after tomorrow I am doing it in Kottayam, Kerala, and Saturday's topic is blend of this and standard sorting in Coimbatore on Saturday. So this creates a self-review threat. That is what I was saying, that the audit accounts which have been audited by you, when you are preparing the accounting entries, etc., creates a, but then tax return preparation usually no threat. Now the thing which they talk about is they prepare guidance how to go by the standard in the code. The guidance is, in a larger firm they say, I don't know how far it is practical. You have a client whom you are the auditor and you're also supposed to do the tax representation. There is no express prohibition, but then if the audit is done by partner A, then the tax representation should be done by partner B. That is the guidance which I are talking about. Easier said than done, but that they all give leeways. One good thing about the code of conduct is that this guidance is really giving us, some more leeway into how to go about in discharging duties, because typically small firms, or medium-sized firms like ours, we have been calling us SMPs for a long time. We still SMPs, small and medium practitioners. Prime Minister asked this question: why do you remain small all the time? Why don't you grow and become big, or big 4 or big 5, whatever? Anyway, so that is how it is. So there's a guidance. Tax planning and other tax advisory services might create self-review and advocacy threat. Appropriate safeguards, and not guidance. Safeguards is the term they use. Using professionals who are not in the audit team members performing the service, having an appropriate reviewer not involved in providing the service, review the audit work, etc. That is what I was trying to say. So there should be a compartmentalization. And incidentally on that, today if there are firms with 5 partners, I've been interacting with members as a regional council member, as a faculty across southern region. I've been seeing this, every partner is doing everything. I'm taking a detour from this code of conduct. In our firm, we are trying to verticalize. It is not a client-wise allocation, it is area-wise allocation. If you go to a specialized law firm, what happens is, take for example, it is a company law problem, it is cabin 1. If it's a direct tax problem, it's cabin 2. If it's an indirect tax, cabin 4. If it is an audit, it's cabin 6 and so on. So that verticalization, when you are 1 or 2 partners, we cannot be choose. We are forced to do everything. But when the partners, I'll be very unhappy to see in a coaching conference, all the 5 partners have a firm coming for a GST seminar. It can only be one GST firm. That is what we slowly try to do it. And when you become senior, it's also very easy. There's an old story which, for the sake of a break, I'll tell you. This is about a guy who going to a pet shop wanting to buy Australian parrots, very colorful Australian parrots. So there are a few parrots there. So the guy asked, how much is this parrot? He said, $100. $100 for a parrot, yeah, that's very good at accounting and accounting standards. This is a story, okay, take it in the right spirit of it. Then he tells the second one is $300, which is not interested in historical information. He's good at making business plans. Companies blossom forth, IPOs and things like business valuations, M&A as they say. And it turns to another parrot, which is slightly looking senior, disinterested and looking out and all that. He said, how much is that parrot? He said, $500. He said, what is that capable of doing? Both frankly speaking, I have not seen him doing a damn thing, but the other 2 parrots call him senior partner. So I have become a senior partner in my firm, so I don't have to be in any of these verticals. I can sit in my cabin and keep advice light away. But jokes apart, I think it is time for us to verticalize. So this is something we will talk about in the case of, but then where if documentation is proper, but then again if the audit partner is representing, there is an evidence of an hearing or a faceless assessment, one could be taken to task.
Why you have to make this kind of regulation? It's very difficult to follow. Why all this is happening for chartered accountant? For example, a lawyer who has been practicing for 30 years, he becomes a judge of High Court, other he becomes a judge of the Supreme Court, but he is interpreting the same law which he was contesting before. But that you allow. But as an auditor, you are supposed to just represent the guy, statutory audit plus the taxation also. And if he has got a problem there, now you are just saying another partner will do this job and this junior will do this job. But the guy will get mad at you. They will say, what is your auditor?
Don't get mad at me, sir. I didn't make any of this.
I'm just feeling, when I see this thing, I'm feeling that the auditors are not being given a free hand to do what they wanted to do.
Sir, there are the different ways of looking at it. I understand your anguish, but then it's very important to, very disturbing to know that there are continuing audit failures. Continuing audit failures by the so-called Big Four firms. You know what happened in IL&FS. IL&FS, 92,000 crores of irregularities. In a smaller way, auditors have been following certain practices, which now it's felt that for the sake of governance, this needs to be controlled. This needs to be regulated substantially more. So therefore, as you said, the free hand to do everything. This is my client, I will do everything for him. You know, world over, there's a question of the statutory auditor's independence being checked. We cannot do away with that. Whether you like it or not, this has come to stay. My job this evening is to share with you what the institute's thinking is and my way of interpreting it with my limited experience. There's no point in getting disturbed because why this is happening is because this is the way things are happening everywhere, and in a regulated, and we have to work in a regulated environment. If I say that I will not change, that's a problem. You have to change.
Why? What is the logic behind all this regulation? What is the logic?
In very simple terms,
you don't trust the auditor, he has just passed his exam, All India exam, and you don't trust him?
Yeah, passing the exam is one thing, but then here is a situation where you're doing the audit and you're doing the tax representation, therefore there is a self-review threat. That is what we're talking about. It's a technical matter. So we will discuss towards the end of it, so I understand. Okay, we'll move on. Assistance in the resolution of tax disputes might create self-review advocacy threats and appropriate safeguards to be adopted. We have seen what the safeguard is. That's within the firm divided between the partners. Here is about sponsorship. Member of firm not permitted to sponsor an event. However, may sponsor an event conducted by ICAI provided has prior approval of CPE. Sometimes the members are asked to align our names with the program of the client. Members sponsoring activities relating to CSR may mention their individual name, the prefix CA. However, the mention of the firm name or CA is not permitted. Signboard. I think just across the road there's a signboard, is it not? In Cochin also we have that. But then look at what's the revised code, and now it can be said in the overline. While keeping in mind the appropriate visibility and illumination of the signboard. So there is absolutely, with regard to the size of the signboard of his office that the member can put up, it's a matter in which members should exercise their own discretion and good taste. Use of glow signs and neon lights on large size boards as used by traders or shopkeepers would not be proper. Now, being a blatant violation just across, they're saying this. So, but then let us be aware about what is and carefully comply, and that is how we should move on. So, will not be taken in, will not be proper. It says that it doesn't say that it is prohibited. So, what they are trying to say is, in some points while restrictions are there, many of the restrictions are being lifted. Now, we are never allowed to have a website. Today, most of us have a website. If you do not have a website, please visit our website, jvr-cs.com. My firm name is JVR & Associates. Please do have a website. We get inquiries. Also have a brochure. If you have a reasonably good firm and if you are proud of what you're doing, and you can have a firm restriction, you can have a brochure. But you don't distribute it standing on Nugambakam High Road. You don't do that. But when a client comes to you and you go to meet a client, you go to a presentation, and you can have an e-brochure also, absolutely no problem. So there are some amount of relaxation there. Now, duty of the previous auditor, on the request of the incoming auditor to the retiring auditor for providing non-information regarding any information of which the retiring auditor's opinion, incoming auditor needs to be aware before deciding whether to accept the assignment, the retiring auditor shall provide the information diligently. Normally it happens, we take an NOC. But let me remind you, tell you that the large number of disciplinary cases are on account of this not communicating with the previous auditor. Particularly NR members in a hurry to get an audit, they would accept saying that the company would say that we have removed the auditor and you are appointed as a new auditor. What is the term of the auditor under the Companies Act 2013?
Yeah.
The first auditor is appointed by the board, but in the first AGM if he is appointed, then he is appointed till the conclusion of the 6th AGM, which means it is 5 years. And he cannot be removed by the company before that, except with the prior permission of the Senator. But if he resigns, it is well and good. But if he resigns, can casual vacancy caused by resignation be filled by the board? It has to be, but then it has to be ratified by the company general meeting. If it is death, disqualification, etc., yes, the board can refill. The casual vacancy caused by resignation can be ratified only by the company general meeting. So one often forgets this. And if there is a disciplinary issue, all these things happen. Now today under CARO there is a reporting requirement, is it not? Where there is a resignation, if CARO is applicable, and CARO also has a lot of interpretation issues. The guidance note is clear that that fourth point is not becomes redundant if you are a small company. And what's the definition of small company for 23-24? Subsection 85 says paid up capital should not exceed 4 crores and turnover should not exceed 40 crores. 40 crores. The jointers and in the original definition 2 subsection 85 it was 4. So cumulatively both these conditions had to be satisfied to be a small company, to be exempt from CARO, to be exempt from the preparation of cash flow statements. All those things are there. So that is that. So this is what very important. So from the CARO point of view also, when we ask for an NOC, if CARO is applicable, we would also ask, please let us know if you have any objection in our accepting the assignment, making sure that the fees has been paid, and also that is there any issues which we should be aware as incoming auditors from the perspective of the retiring auditor. That also we should seek. As I said about the communication confusion, premises are locked, 9 code was silent, but the revised code says that communication received back by the incoming auditor with office found locked written on AD shall be deemed as delivered. To silent. Now it is locked, AD is returned and door is locked. You know, you may think that's all silly matters, but when it comes to a major audit where there's a dispute, all this will come up before the. How did you? What was the proof that you had? Sir, I said an AD. Sir, AD came back with this. It's okay. You have communicated. Fair enough. Okay. If communication as a firm not found at the given registered address, if communication sent with remarks no such office exists at this address is registered with the institute deemed to be delivered, unless the retiring auditor proves that it was not really served and that he was not responsible for such non-service. Certification, in case of certifications, normally it is statute. Yeah, sir. If it is? Email is allowed now. Email is allowed. Email, unless it is returned, it is taken as delivered. What is a bad delivery or what is it called? Status delivery. So that is taken as delivery. I think that decided case laws of the ethical standards. You will go for hard copies, but with due respect to your seniority, I would strongly advise you to go for a registered AD.
Additional, what is additional?
Sorry, sir?
It is additional.
Additional security, additional safety. Now, director simpliciter. Now, many of us are asked to become directors, and independent directors exam that account to passing. But if that happens with, the definition is that means an ordinary simple director who is not managing director, all-time director, and is required only in the board meetings of the company, not paid any remuneration except for attending such meetings. That is to enable independent directorship. You cannot be signing a check, you cannot be an executive director, engage in the activities, etc. etc. You cannot do that. That's director simplicity, that's a term. Because Part 1 schedule allows the practicing chartered accounts to be director simpliciter. This we have already discussed. If the fees of a client is more than 15% of the total fees consecutively for 2 years, it would require disclosure to TCWG. TCWG is a term which we use, those start with governance. It is interchangeably used, but then it has a slightly larger connotation than that of management. If there is a factory of a Chennai company in Maramalai Nagar, I remember going to Maramalai Nagar for an audit stock verification. I think Ford has their factory in Maramalai Nagar, it has become an industrial area. And there could be an operations manager who is not part of the board. He may be called director of operations, but he is not part of the board of director of operations. He could also be, when it comes to stock verification or physical condition of the machinery, etc., this work could be taken as one for TCWG. So I'm just giving an example. And if the annual fees does not exceed 5 lakhs, it's not applicable. Now brings us to contents of glance of volume 2 after those introductions. Chapter 1 deals with accounting and auditing standards, then the first and second schedule of the Act, council guidelines we've seen, and self-regulatory that we have seen yesterday. The authority of announcements one should be really clear of. People call up and ask me, Jomon, there's a guidance note, how should we go about? The guidance note have no mandatory force, but today accounting standards have applicability with partial and sometimes total exceptions. I think I would start with statements. Statements and standards in auditing are fully 100% mandatory. Accounting standards, there's the interplay. I would say that there is, how many of us are aware that there is Companies Accounting Standards Rules 2021? I'm not talking about Ind AS. The applicability of Ind AS is for listed companies and companies with net worth exceeding 250 crores. It can also happen that your company is a small private limited company in Chennai, but a subsidiary of a larger company in Mumbai. So Ind AS would apply. So we had a new audit this year of a jewellery group. They started a manufacturing outfit where the turnover and all that last year, 23-24, were very little, but it's close to 200 crores this year as a subsidiary. But last year, though it was small, by virtue of that being the subsidiary of a larger jewellery private limited company, Ind AS had to be compliant. Accounting standards and standards are mandatory to the extent prescribed by the ICA. Now, Accounting Standards Rules 2021 talks about what are the standards to which what extent it is applicable. For example, AS 17, segment reporting, is not applicable to small and medium company. There are two things. Small company under the Companies Act, 2 subsection 85. The small and medium company for the purpose of Companies Accounting Standards Rules 2020. There also they put the turnover at 250 crores in line with the MSME classification. I have the slide, I don't exactly remember the limit. So if you're a small and medium company, then you are partial or total exemption, AS 17 for example. What is the position of AS 3, cash flow statements? Should every company prepare cash flow statements? The answer is no. Cash flow statements, if you are a small company, you are exempted from cash flow. Small companies, OPCs and dormant companies are exempted from the preparation of cash flow statement. But if you ask me, or people like MPB have already started saying that the future of accounting is going to be cash flow based. The P&L is there, but where is the cash? Way back in 2010, I was in Muscat with Patabi for a presentation for a group there. And there's a presentation of cash flow statements. The Patabi style of asking questions, we had multiple nationalities, Omani, Sudani, Pakistani, Malaysian, Sri Lankan, Indian, of course. So this session was on cash flow statements. We asked this question, Patabi style. Both, you have the balance sheet which gives you a position, and the P&L which gives you a performance. Why do you need a cash flow statement? Multiple responses, but this next slide was very, very impressive, striking. Turnover is vanity. Turnover is vanity. You know what vanity is? Shakespeare famously said, vanity, thy name is woman. Okay. Turnover is vanity. Profit is sanity. Cash is only reality. Narayana Murthy, who is now, infamous for certain reasons, is an icon at some point of time. He always used to say that, my experience tells me that profit is opinion, but cash is reality. The cash flow statements are of great importance, that is incidental. But today cash flow statements, small companies are not required to prepare cash flow statements. Once you grow up from a small company to a non-small company, cash flow statements have to be prepared. Then the auditor's report also should be corrected. You should report on the cash flow also. The auditor's report normally we don't attend, is it not? It is given to the junior most assistant to take a printout and change only the year, is it not? That's how Companies Act 2014 was invented. The student changed that also, from Companies Act 2013 to Companies Act 2014. Our life has become so mechanical now. So that's how it is. So statements are mandatory, accounting standard, guidance not are recommendatory. That's a comprehensive. Now we come to the first schedule. The chartered account in practice shall be deemed to be guilty of professional misconduct if allows any person to practice in his name as a chartered account unless such person is also a chartered account in practice and in partnership with him or employed by him. Pays or allows to agree pay or allow directly or indirectly any share, commission or brokerage in the fees or profits of the professional business to any person other than a member of the institute or a partner or retired partner, etc., etc. Persons having such qualifications as may be prescribed for the purpose of rendering professional services from time to time outside India. This might probably eventually change. There are some relaxations. Now the institute has been moving fast on the MDP. Firms which have still got growth on their agenda is thinking about how do we expand our practice, how do we expand the range of our services. Having a lawyer on board, having a techie on board. Techie on board, we have offline techies now. Not as partners, but we need even for audit trail certain cases. We require a tech support to say whether the audit trail has been there throughout the year, whether they have been enabled throughout the year, whether they have been tampered during the year, etc., etc. If you have seen the audit report of the largest IT company in India, TCS, there's a qualification on audit trail. Their invoicing module lacks, I think currently it is the invoicing module which is interfaced with the FA schedule. That invoicing module doesn't have audit trail. So this year it is said that the MCA may not take harsh action, so we are also a little lenient and passive about the audit trail portion, but then it will surely become more this. So once the MDP comes, this would disappear, and you could have a lawyer, you could have a company secretary, cost accountant, techie on board. I think that is the need of the hour now for firms aspiring to do. Accepts or agrees to accept any part of the process or professional work of a person who is not a member of the institute. That is referral fee. I hope all of you get calls from Bajaj Finance. How many calls? 5 calls a day. Bajaj Finance. Sir, we would like you to become a channel partner. Not there. Tenders into partnership in or outside India with any person other than a chartered account in practice, such as the same thing, entitled to be registered as a member, or whose qualifications are recognized by the central government. That is where, UAE is still not there. I think there is some place where, I think it was Singapore, where you can have partnerships which are specifically allowed both by the council. They are not members of the institute, but you can have a partnership with them. You know what the Singapore development is? If you are an Indian chartered accountant and you remain in Singapore for 6 months continuously, you are given a membership of the Institute of Chartered Accountants Singapore. That's the new thing, which is reciprocity is happening. A lot of our young members are doing Australian CPE. We have tried only 2 papers. It takes about 18 months to become an Australian CPE. Our past president, Ramaswamy from Coimbatore, I think is a CPA. Secures either through the services of a person who is not an employee or chartered accountant, partner means who are not open to chartered accountant or any professional services. That is somebody else. Instead of you campaigning for yourself, you send. But then larger firms have their consulting team who are on. But when you do it, you have to be careful. Discreetly you do it. Solicits clients or professional work either directly or indirectly through circular, advertisement, personal communication, or interview by any other means. But the TV channel today, when you come for interviews, budget analysis, there is no restriction. Advertises professional attainments or services or uses any designation or expressions other than chartered accountant or professional documents, visiting cards, letterheads, signboards, unless it's a degree of a university established by law in India or recognized by central government, indicating membership of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India or other institution that has been recognized by the Central Council, may be recognized by the Council. Now, this is something which is, there are a few decisions of the ESB which is slightly in contrast with this. This is who has been issued certificate restricted without first communicating with them writing. This is what I was talking about. Either a CA or the RSA in earlier days, if you have to essentially communicate with them and get the no objection certificate. Otherwise, you are liable for professional misconduct. This is 225. Surprisingly, this is still not changed. 225 is under the Companies Act 1956. Because 225, this is to avoid the unjust removal of auditors, where an auditor, even in the current context of 2013 Act, when an auditor is being removed, he should be given the reasonable opportunity of being heard in the AGM. And if it is not possible, the objections or the representation made by the retiring auditor has to be communicated with the entire shareholders. That is a complaint which is required, and without that, if an incoming auditor accepts, he can be held responsible for professional misconduct. Fees as a percentage of profits. If audit fees as a percentage of profits, he accepts the contingency upon findings, then that is not acceptable. It is treated as professional misconduct. Engages in any business or occupation other than the profession of chartered accounts unless permitted by the council to engage. You can be sleeping partner in a family business. I hope you know that. Other than that, you cannot be in any other business or occupation. Allows a person who is not a member of the institute to sign on behalf of the firm any balance sheet, profit and loss account, etc. Now in service, this is for industry accountants. Pays or allows to agree to pay directly or indirectly any person any share of the emoluments of the employment undertaken by him. That is sharing the salary. Accepts or agrees to accept any part of the fees or profits or gains from lawyer, a chartered account, a broker engaged by such company, firm or such person, firm or person by way of commission or gratification. Not being a fellow of the institute, acts as a fellow of the institute. Does not, we will move faster now and go to the ESB decisions, which are more interesting. Does not supply the information called for, does not comply with the requirements asked for by the institute, council, and the board of disciplinary committee, quality review board. The last point is very relevant. Disciplinary committee is extreme situation, but today many of us are coming under the quality review board. Peer review also. Excuse me. The peer review has been extended. I know all of you know that the deadlines have been fixed. So at some point of time, all of us would be peer reviewed. But where are the resources to have as many peer reviews? A key question. But our firm got the second round of peer review and we got the peer review certificate. So I told the peer reviewer that I move around as a speaker on standards and auditing. So be as objective, as critical as possible. And I'm not going to, as a senior partner, I'm not going to involve in any of this. The partner was designated. And she did a reasonably deep drill. And still with all that, we found that there are a lot of scope for improvement. Of course, we got the peer review certificate. The board says a peer review certificate is a hallmark of professional excellence. It's a proof that your processes are mature, processes have gained that kind of levels of compliance. So auditing documents, audit files. And today we'll talk about audit documentation. The whole thing has changed. Maybe I did my articles in Chennai with one man from so all the Bangalore audits, Hyderabad audits we are doing. 18 months of my articles was spent in hotel rooms. No regrets looking back. So we would come back after an audit with 3-4 thick box files, working notes files. Mr. SA 230 called them current files. Now we don't have thick box files. So we ask an student ask an article for audit finalization discussion. Say, where are the LS notes in our office? Let's just put the notes. So that's in the folder, under LS folder. In the client's folder, LS folder is there. Audit 23-24. Things have changed. And you should have backup. It's very important. Otherwise, as in the case of our clients, the hard disk can collapse in our office also. So that is where one has to be careful. And this is about the QRV as talking about peer review. No. One should essentially ask in the given environment that whether we will pass a peer review or not. Now, SEBI has already mandated that the audit of listed companies can be done only by peer reviewed firms, those who have the valid peer review certificate. Peer review is said to be a friendly formalization process. But the questions which I asked you personally, one should be able to answer. I'm a peer review trainer. So there are a lot of seniors when we go for the training program, a lot of seniors. So I have a slight bit of delicacy in asking this question. You're wanting to become a peer reviewer, but how many of you are confident that you would pass a peer review? That's a key question. So today many of the firms are getting a peer review certificate because the peer reviewer is not fully equipped. I'm being a little candid there. The peer review does not ask the relevant questions. So it is sometimes said that ignorance is a bliss of both. It can happen. Not finding fault, but that is the situation where it is. But that the whole point is whether it is professional skepticism or whether it is peer review, whether it is compliance with standards is something which one should be, awake of. Ya yesha supteshu jagrati. That we say one should be aware of and applying it at the workplace. And you should show. Peer is going to ask for this file. We have been doing this audit for the last 2 years. It's a fairly large company. We would like to have a look at your permanent file and your current file. Where are the documents? Let's say about standards and auditing, let me ask a few questions. How many of us obtain a letter of engagement? It's a mandatory requirement at SA 210. How many of us an audit program or a planning memorandum, even a large audit? SA 300, audit planning mandates the overall strategy, which is audit planning memorandum. It could be a 2-pager. And it's an audit program. Do we have that? How many of us obtain letter of representation? Written representation, SA 580. These are questions which not the speaker of the evening is asking. These are the questions which the peer reviewer would on a very friendly mode ask. And later, if we have found fault, it can happen to me also. I'm not saying that nobody is insulated. So those are things which one should be aware of. And if you look at SA 230, it gives us 90 days time for the final assembly of the audit file after the audit is done. Which means that in America, in England also, there is deadline called September 30th and now October 31st. That point of time, somehow we do all that and do the files, but then file regularization, we do that in our office. So November first few days, the team of assistants are asked to do whether the files of indexing it and all that. That we can do. Get it signed by the client. Letter of representation was missed out. But in our office, I'm just sharing, it's very effective. There's something called the final set. The financial statements are final, then the final set. The resolution, the director's declaration under 164(2), letter of representation. If it's a new client, essentially letter of engagement before we start the audit planning memorandum, etc., that happen. And also one more thing which has been found effective for the last many years we have been doing is, please try this out. Be sent by in the month of June, July, except for the audits which are finalized. Our habitual guys, who come on September 25th and ask this question, Malayalam asks, Sir, audit took a return file. I hope that much of Malayalam we don't understand. Should we not do the audit and file the return 25th? That practice has been stopped. Even now there are clients, but then they said you are in a queue. You are in a queue, let's see. We are not saying they are not doing. But then here's a case where you send a checklist for audit readiness. I can share it with you. In fact, the audit kit which I shared last year, the whole of South Indian members, I think there probably I will share with some of you. Their checklist for audit readiness is made a change. And we say that we'll start the audit after only this is done. The accountant leaves by 3:30 because that's a train from Ernakulam to Kottayam. And the auditor sits late. So this is typically what happens, and I'm not anti-client, pro-client, because completely pro-client in the sense, in the sense of advising clients, and we also do mentoring. Day before yesterday, I was with the client which has a potential, so I did a presentation on how they should move forward after our summarizing the statutory audit, and said that you should have an internal audit. And finally, I said an ambitious plan of having an IPO in 2026, which excited completely the mood changed. I said we are talking about this, not fault finding. These are things where we require improvement. It was started by a few cable operators in Kerala in a small town, and last year they did a turnover of 150 crores with about 10% net profits. Inventory management needs to be improved, so we give a lot of suggestions. And finally, this really helped. This has been a dream, sir, for a long time. This has been there for a long time. Changes. So we do mentoring also. At the same time, making them do their work is equally important than slogging ourselves. So try this out. And on that, let me also tell you, now there is a shortage of articles, the 2-year articles. Luckily, our firm do not have the problem. We have developed an academic culture over a period of time, because some of those who came late, I'm not talking too much about myself, it's about my firm and certain practices. Since I've been teaching for many long years, there is a connect. For the students that are there, I don't market the firm during my classes. But that chain continues, and of course, that's a different kind of a repetition. Now, one thing which we have started doing in the last 10 years is that if we provisionally decide to take a student, in the final meeting, the parent has to come. They made it mandatory. That made a huge change. And they have to countersign the letter which the student gives, that I would like to join your organization article. And today is a 2-year article, all of you know. 2-year articles, and there's no leave. There's only 1 day's leave, there's only 24 days in 2 years. The MCS, the advanced ITT, everything falls outside the article. So we give them 2 years, compact, completely. They don't go for, leave every 6 months. The students who are not in the practice of passing fast, they used to take leave every 6 months. That's what in lighter vein people used to say. CA stands for come again, and the institute calls you every 6 months, come again. Another dejected soul said it's not come again, it is continuous appearance. And of course, this is a church where I used to go. I'm not talking religion. There, I know most of you have heard this. It's a Chennai joke actually. They said this guy wrote 13, 14 times, he didn't pass. And finally went to the church and started praying. He saw that it was written, Jesus never fails. Below that he wrote, let him write the CA exam. Jesus will also fail. I'm not talking religion here. That is the way things are. So we have to gear up in our practice, and all those things have been really, really helpful. So I was taking a detour from quality review board and peer review and all that. The practices have to essentially improve. While inviting professional work from another chartered accountant, while responding to tenders, etc., the write-up gives information knowing to be false representations. Other misconduct is general, and in practice, let me say, discloses information secretary without consent of this client. This is confidentiality. Discloses information acquired in the course of the professional engagement to any person other than his client, so engaging him without the consent of his client, and otherwise required by law. That is the point I was talking about. For the time being in force. Yeah, this again we have seen a name connection with an estimated earnings contingent upon future transactions. Do we sign a business valuation report these days? Unless you're a registered valuer, I know how they're doing. But we are asked to do financial projections, right? I used to give this example. About, I think it was 1.5 years back, I was to do a presentation at Kumbakonam, a residential program by Kumbakonam branch. The 140 participants were there. Unfortunately, the topic given to me was, unfortunately because I was in the electoral race at that point, the topic given to me was provisional financial statements, projected financial statements, and certifications by chartered accountants. I would tell you what happened start with what happened at the end of the session now. I made 140 enemies. And I said provisional financial statements should not be signed. The senior member was left now. He would ask, why? Why can't I sign provisional financial statements? Where is it said? I've been doing this for 20 years. Don't sign projected financial statements. Okay. Now in the auditor's report in Caro, we have to report whether it's material unforeseen uncertainty for 1 year, is it not? Based on financial ratios, etc., etc. So somebody light over might say, sir, anyway, sir, you are changing the syllabus of the final. Why don't you include astrology also 20 months later? So the auditor has to predict the future. So far, the auditor was required to have hindsight and things about the present. Bhutakalam, Vartamana, is that in the Tamil also use that? And Bhavikalam. Bhuta is past, Vartaman, and Vartamana, Bhavikalam. So in lighter way, people are talking. So projected financial statements, no. Provisional financial statements, no. Certificate is what? Certification is the accountant would call, sir, office liya, bitiya, office. Sir, certificate got sir, 3 years turnover certificate. Immediately we'll start working on it. Do insist on an email. At least a WhatsApp message from somebody responsible, not at the lowest level accountant. And you give a certificate, say, this certificate is issued in response to your email dated so and so, requesting us. That's the format which is given. It is standardized. You have to do that. So when I said this, no, the answer the entire Kumbakonam membership or 140 members wanted was, sir, whatever you are doing, continue to do that. Then if I put it that way, I would have won the hearts of the members. But that was not the mission on me. The mission on me was to convey what the real thing is, and then deviations is at your own risk, and so that is how things are. So here,
going for bank loan, the bank managers are insisting to sign the provisional balance sheet.
Yes. Yesterday also there was a request. Now the bank managers are not gods. They are retired bankers, please bear with me. The bank manager will get transferred after 1 year.
Then the client suffers. He may not get loan.
So these are all things which I have been saying when I was a regional chairman interacting with our council members. We have been saying that we should sensitize the IBA. The bank should not ask for provisional financial statements to be signed by the chartered account. And there's something called engagements to compile provisional information. I don't know whether you know SRS 4410. Engagements to compile financial information is where a non-auditor. I'll come to your points. Now I'll give this example. A non-corporate client with 80 lakhs of turnover and 10 lakhs of profit is approaching you. Sir, I need a chartered account. I'm putting it, normally every day happens in our office. A partnership firm with a turnover of 80 lakhs and a profit of 10 lakhs. Why I say profit of 10 lakhs? 44 ADA is not attractive. Am I right? I'm not very sure of tax provisions. Even that I would like to share with you. 12 years back, I completely discontinued my tax plans. When a partner, I thought that he can do the representation, or my partner at Trivandrum would love high stakes. Because again, what I was preaching now, just 10 minutes back, is that everyone doing everything has to change. Tax is not my domain. That's different. So, this client is approaching you for what? He wants to file a tax return primarily. Is audit required? Is audit mandatory? Are we supposed to sign? But we still sign. Like one member said, sir, Kalele 9 o'clock till 5:30, I'm sitting in my office. Without signing something, how can I go home? And I've also seen chartered accountants preparing statement of total income of individual clients on the letterhead. Please don't own up anything that is not required to be owned up. This is a cardinal principle everyone has to practice from yesterday. Own up only to the extent, disown the maximum. So with that, we would sign still. Prepared from the books of accounts produced before us and on the basis of book sale, that's not there. Inventory, we don't know, the factory itself is there. You know, recently SBI branch was started, you know that. It was on WhatsApp, no, social media. Somebody started SBI branch. In Rotary, since I was introduced as a Rotarian past president, in Rotary, unfortunately in Tamil Nadu, they constructed a crematorium and got a grant. You know how they constructed? Not on cement or bricks, Photoshop. You can construct I say also on Photoshop, I say that this is a building. So that extent fraudsters are coming back to this particular point where provisional is asked for. So you are saying that okay, we'll do this, and if at all you have to sign SRS 4417. It talks about compilation engagements. It is a nil assurance engagement. This is slightly technical. It's a nil assurance engagement. The term audit should not be used. Auditors of information. And we are supposed to issue a report, if at all we are required. You know what is that captioned as? Accountant's report on unaudited financial statements. I repeat, accountant's report on unaudited financial statements. That's how it is. SRS 44. That's the only way signed. Provisional should not be signed. It is prohibited. The question I'll come back to. The projected financial statement. Now I'll tell you again, coming back to this particular story, this company has been doing well. His turnover grows a little bit. He goes to the bank. The banker says that your industry looks good. There's an aggressive bank manager who says that we will give you an OD or an ODCC or whatever, and a term loan for acquiring machinery. Then the whole scenario changes. Then the checklist comes from the bank manager. Father's name, grandfather's name, and that is a different story altogether. I say that 2 years audit, current year provisional, and 2 years project. And we'll happily say, this is prohibited, but if you're doing it, saying that the client will suffer, sometimes we may also suffer. I can only say that. And people always say that, sir, if I'm not doing it, somebody else will do it. So that is no justification. Just like somebody was caught for a theft. He told the investigators, sir, I stole only one small ring. Only one small ring only I stole. Please don't. Why? That was the only thing which was there. I wanted to start so many things. I thought there were 10 sovereigns of gold, but it's as simple as saying, I'm not making fun of things, but then we are still thinking that the client will suffer. When we suffer, who will be there? Nobody will be there. The client will not be there. Sir, nalla paakilla sir. The senior auditor, nalla paathu kodukka vendiyadana. Correct? Is my Tamil bearable? I should speak good Tamil. And I stayed in Anna Nagar, so Vengayam Pundala Devi, because for first year we were doing Samela ourselves. They're all. Sonia, it's okay. Not really, okay. But then still, I come back to, I always used to, most of them, speak to them, the staff in Tamil only, when I was here as chairman.
No, your average Malayalam is very close to Tamil.
I know, still, that is there, but then there's a sort of difference. So, this has to be very careful. So, I was talking from this particular point of, may lead to believe that the vouchers the accuracy of a forecast. We're doing a financial projection for 10 years. In fact, in the flight to Chennai, I did a financial projection for a client of ours, but we're not certifying it. We're not certifying it. They are going for a term loan. Same thing, it's a partnership firm. We're going for a term loan. I just, in the template was there. And there's a 2 years balance sheet, we give audit, and from there we do a projection. Excel takes care of that. By the time the flight landed, 10 years financial projections were ready. Balance sheet, P&L, cash flow, DSCR. And term loan repayment schedule. That is it. So we are just giving it. Then the question, how do we bill it? It's a non-corporate entity, so there's a lot of flexibility. Advisory services. Don't quote me anywhere. It's recorded, no? Cut part. No, that is the point. So convenience is one thing, comfort is one thing, client's comfort is one thing, but then today the regulations are much more stringent now. They will just slice us, and when cuts it to really bleach. That's what I'm saying. This in Kerala we had a problem. Expresses an opinion on financial statements of any business enterprise in which his firm or partner in his firm has a substantial interest. In one of the non-NBFCs in Kerala, there's a chartered accountant who is a part of that, and they had 4 or 5 partnership firms. He attested that he signed the balance sheet of all those firms. He was given a reprimand by the institute was kind enough, stopped with the reprimand and not any disciplinary action.
He should mention the relationship and sign are not allowed.
Not allowed. Companies Act in 1956 we have the leverage, but then 2013 is very clear that you cannot. So that is about the companies, non-corporate also. But he was a director. See, that one you're talking about is like, for example, if somebody said, I can say no to my father. My father's company I will not sign. But if his father-in-law, I have to. In light away. So then you have to say that way you have to expressly this thing. And here he himself was a director. That flexibility I think is still there, where you have to mention the relationship. But again it says that, but to the extent possible try to abstain and avoid such a thing.
So in a small company, listed company, auditors got just 100 shares.
Yeah.
Or 500 shares. Company, very big company has got 500 shares. Just
1 share. Disqualified. Fails to report a material misstatement known to him to appear in a financial statement with which he is concerned is a professional capacity. That is leaving out something which is a material misstatement and saying that it is true and fair. What is true and fair? Talk about true and fair. People ask this question. People say audit is risky. What is audit risk? What is audit risk? Audit risk is very simple. If you do not take it political, when I was doing this, somebody said, one of the former chief ministers of Tamil Nadu slapped the auditor. If you go to Tirupur, it is auditor. He slapped the auditor. So I said, it is risky to be the auditor of the chief minister of Tamil Nadu. Former, she's no more there.
Chief minister, somebody.
Yeah, okay, whatever. I know the story. The audit risk is the risk of expressing an inappropriate opinion in very simple terms. The risk of expressing inappropriate opinion, saying that it is true and fair, when it's factually not so. The same thing happens, risk comes to us every day, most of the time, or not every day, sometimes. You get a call from a friend of yours, a college mate. Jomon, there was a girl or a boy in your office, did articles with you. There's a marriage proposal. How is this person? You have to collect evidence, document, plan the work properly, letter of representation, whatnot. And finally, of course, you give it the caveat to say that the 3 years she was with us, by and large, found to be good. Sometimes we say that slightly qualified report. He's a loner, not a team player. Otherwise, then the last question comes, is she a CA? Has he really passed or not? Yes, yes. She's a qualified CA. A lot of misrepresentations. But then there is that's a qualification. Then sometimes you tend to say that wonderful, fabulous, avoid. It's better. Same is the case with financial statements. So audit risk is the risk of expressing an inappropriate opinion. That is, saying it is true and fair when it's actually not so. Does the other way, will the vice versa apply? Does the vice versa apply? No, because if you have to say that, if you say that Jomon is a good boy, then you say, okay, you don't have to say. But what does SA 705 say? 705 says that if you want to say Jomon is a bad boy, then don't say bad boy, Jomon is a good boy. Jomon is not a good boy. The difference between saying that it's a bad boy is not a good boy, then you have to say what? That is what the paragraph, basis for qualified opinion. You have to enlist the reasons. Basis for disclaimer. Sometimes we say this about individuals also. Sir, like Jairam was talking about Jain Ravi. Sir, don't ask this question to me. I don't want to opine about this particular person. So that is a disclaimer. But here, if you talk about qualified adverse report, the reasons have to be given. Therefore, the vice versa does not apply. Risk is only saying that you are saying it true and fair when there are material misstatements, material omissions, underlying frauds, errors, all those things are detected. Non-compliance with regulations, non-compliance accounting standards, undervaluation of understatement of liabilities, overvaluation of assets, all those things can happen. So, does not exercise due diligence, grossly negligent in the conduct of professional duties. That is being passive in doing an audit. Fails to obtain sufficient information which is necessary for the expression of opinion, or its exceptions are sufficiently material to negate the expression of opinion. I did make a reference to IL&FS and Deloitte. I mean, Big Four, it is on public domain. People tend to say that you should not be saying this. In fact, one of the former partners in Deloitte, we were co-speakers in Vijayawada. I hope some of you know Ganesh Balakrishnan. He's not with us anymore. He collapsed after playing shuttle badminton in the morning. Last year, I think we lost him. I could not go because there was no connecting flight before the cremation to Hyderabad. So they say, why do you? This is on public domain. So the NAFRA findings, the report is 305-page report. The crux of the report is just two things. 305 pages. NAFRA said the experienced firm of auditors did not exercise due professional skepticism, what we discussed. The second one, if you see, is that they failed to obtain dash evidence to form their opinion on. What is dash? We have studied that in the first class on auditing. Louder, sir, louder. Sufficient appropriate evidence. In between and is not there. I always say there is sufficient appropriate and is not there. Sufficient is quantity. Appropriate is relevant, quality of evidence. So that is what it is. So we have to gather information. Fails to invite attention to any material departure from the generally accepted procedure of audit applicable to circumstances. This is something which is there. Fails to keep monies of his client other than fees or remuneration or money meant to be accepted in a separate bank account. Use such monies for the purpose of which they are intended within a reasonable time. One thing is that we are still helping our clients. The client is reasonably big, but net banking is not there. Please help us. Challan payments, GST challan payments, advance tax challan payments. Now this week, self-assessment payments to help them. But the strict requirement is that you should have a separate tax account or a client account. The funds should come in there, and it is inward and outward the same amount. We can charge separately for that. Contravenes any provisions of the Act or regulations made thereunder, that's generic. Defecates or embezzles money received from professional capacity. This happened in Kerala, very unfortunate to say, we share this example. Even I attended the marriage. I remember there was a capital gains, major capital gains by a client, for a client, and there was to pay advance tax. They wanted to pay advance tax, and the transaction happened. So about tax in 234 BC and all that, a huge amount was paid to the auditor, chart accountant. The amount was not paid. The gala marriage happened, and the client got to know about it only 6 months later. I also attended the marriage, so such things should not happen. A member of the institute or practice are deemed to be guilty if he is guilty of any civil or criminal court for an offence which is punishable for a term exceeding 6 months. So up to 6 months is okay. If exceeding 6 months, then you are disqualified and other disqualified. Time is 7:05. If you have some more time, it's okay. We'll have a quick look at the ECB, ESB decisions. Is it okay? We need a break. Or we can have some general questions if it's okay with you. Mike is there on auditing standards, company audit. Simple questions I'll answer. Difficult ones we'll defer.
Sir, a continued question on these signing of the provisional financial statements. So, I mean, I've been thought and I've been told that's still...
Mic is not working, it's not loud enough.
Is it audible, sir?
Yeah.
So there is a common perception that we can still sign the provisional financial statement by giving a rider as per SI 3400 that we only audit the underlying assumptions and we do not vouch for the figures or the accuracy. Is it correct?
I have to interrupt. SI 3400 is on examination of prospective financial information.
Yeah.
That is a projected financial statement.
Yeah. So even like similarly, can you put a rider and say that this is only a provisional figure? Because we also see the books to the extent that the accounts would be not perfect, but there can be variance of 10 or 15% plus or minus based on any other audit adjustments that we might do for the accounting. So
still for provisional there is no this thing. SI 3400 it is an enabling clause, enabling standard on assurance engagement. It is not SI. It's not standards on auditing. It is SI, standard on assurance engagement 3400. Why it says that there are certain situations where business plans may need an attestation by a professional. So you know what the report says. We have broadly examined the business plan prepared by the client, and nothing has come to our belief to think that these financial projections are not too unrealistic. I don't know whether I put it right. So it's just basically washing our hands. But then here is a case. What I am trying to say, SI 3400, I did mention about that. To that extent, you can associate your name with. But then here is a case where the bank manager wants only the seal and this. So on 10 pages of the financial projections, like what I did in the flight today, I'll take a printout of those three and put a stamp JVR Associates, Jomon K George, sign and give. This is prohibited. SI 3400 to the extent you said we can associate. We are saying that we are associating our name with prospective financial information. It's nothing but projected financial statements. But for provisional, there is no way we can do it.
And in most of the cases, the clients even need the provisional to keep their CC limits and OD limits alive.
That's what Bhaskar sir was saying.
So is there a way?
Tell the manager that we cannot sign. The CFO must register itself on Udyog Aadhaar, a web portal of Ministry of Micro, Small, Medium Enterprise. We can raise ourselves as MSMEs. Gives an installation for prompt payment. Now, ours is the only industry which gives 12 months free credit, isn't it? Somebody liked to me and said, oh, sir is a strict auditor. Meaning, he will not do this year's audit until and unless previous year's fees is paid. But we should bill promptly, give services promptly, collect promptly. Again, sharing an example, I think I have on my WhatsApp, there may be a what are bills we have written, our fees is charged on the basis of expertise delivered, time spent, one more thing is there, and expenses incurred. All our bills are payable immediately. And can we stop today evening, can we stop giving credit to one-time assignments, leave alone audits? Partnership firm, he'll call, Jomon, I'm coming to your office, please buy a stamp paper 5,000 rupees. I'm coming there. Immediately, we need, as if it's oxygen. Like a medical college ambulance is going, he's saying. I said, come, we have time, we'll buy it. Now, what can happen is, it has happened once, that's why I'm saying this. After calling me, he wanted to start a business with somebody who had come for a short visit to Kerala. Typically, NRI, Dubai person had come. He said, I'm going to start. Then he called his wife, said, this Thomas has come, I'm planning to start a partnership with Thomas. Then normally the wives are very cautious. He said, you will do that when you come here, you will not have lunch, that's all. Then the stamp paper 5,000 will remain idle in my office. This has happened. So let's stop doing all that. So the point is, which is the point you're trying to say, sir? Again, I was saying, which is the point you said on the issue?
Email.
Sorry?
Email.
Not TMI. Where did I stray from? This question.
The provisional, right? You are speaking of
Not provisional. The client is always in a hurry and says that this has to be done immediately. So that we should not yield. I think I strayed from somewhere. So provisional, there is no way we can sign. Managers have to be, because the people would readily say, but I don't think any of our clients have left for this particular reason.
That is a circular, internal circular, not to ask for final signature. Sometimes they have internal circular.
No, so see, the post recession, the bankers are increasingly cautious. They want every other sheet of paper to be signed by. Now the true copy attestation is prohibited. I hope you know. They wanted income tax return to be certified as true copy by the chartered accountant. No, it is prohibited. So I was talking about MSME. That's where we strayed from giving credit to the client and all. So why give undue credit? If the service is prompt, and of course give copies as soft copies or hard copies, send the bill around, insist on payment, they will pay. There is no prohibition for internal auditor of a company to acquire purchase shares of the said company. Sir, your point you're talking about, statute tort is prohibited, but internal auditor can, internal is internal, he can have shares in the company. Being director or solicitor of a company cannot sign ROC forms of the company is a direct conflict of law. Permission for 2 or more chartered accountants practice collectively have joint training session for their clients on GST and share the fees collected from the clients. GST sessions. In fact, Kerala, there are a few chartered accountants who are doing this. A chartered accountant can hold the credit card of a bank when he is also the auditor of a bank, provided the outstanding balance on the credit card does not exceed 1 lakh beyond the prescribed credit period of a credit card given to him. This 1 lakh limit they have taken from 141 Companies Act, the disqualification of indebtedness. Chartered accountant in practice is not permitted to accept audit assignment of a bank in case he has taken loan against FD. These people have been asking. You are taking a loan from the bank, but sir, it's my own money. My FD is lying there. I have 20 lakhs of FD, so I have taken a 10 lakhs loan. Even then you are disqualified. Member of firm can conduct training through seminars on GST. They always talk about GST. Why not accounting standards? Why not code of ethics? But only invite its existing clients to such training programs. He can say, so the way out is you make a commercial organization, you have Kerala Management Association or Madras Management Association, we have a lot of whether of some of your MMA members. I would also recommend, particularly to younger members, to become part of these management organizations, chambers of commerce. They have a different perspective. Even the union budget discussion, we talk only about direct tax proposals. The macro perspective emerges in a different platform. I've been very closely working with business schools also. Those who have flair for teaching should surely associate. He can send presentation on GST, write-up GST only to existing clients and to a proposed client if an inquiry was received specifically. Not just air it and say that. But then, what is the way we do it? For example, I write an article on company audit 2023-24, and I can put it on my website. There's absolutely no restriction. Then I got announced that it is on my website, but there's no prohibition. It is not permissible for a member to mention himself as GST consultant. Yeah, sharing again updates with the individual name is okay. Mention of firm name is not allowed. This is being blatantly violated. I think in my case also, I should confess that some place where this has been happening, business schools and all that. The updates would come and say that Jomon K George managing partner, JVR and Associates, which is prohibited. Some of the very revert firms in Kerala also now do this, but this is prohibited long back, not now. So at times we confess to. GST training can be provided to existing clients in Kerala. That's okay, we have seen. Abstain from, members in practice engaged in coaching, teaching activities are advised to abstain from advertising their association with coaching, teaching activities through hoardings, posters, banners, etc., etc., as per the provisions. I don't know whether that is happening now. But Chennai, I know off late, I came to Chennai basically to explore a larger horizon in the first place, to improve my communication skills, and of course, because the classes in Chennai were good. I attended my classes here. 1988 November was my first attempt. The classes here, also attended Bobal sir's class in YMIA. Manohan sir had just started his classes. He was a young boy at a point of time. But he would wait outside the class, because some of the students may have an inhibition asking a doubt inside the class. So he would wait outside and see questions. That was the G.N. Manoharan of 1989-90. So Bobal sir's class there, then LSS L.S. Humar, maths class in T Nagar and all that. But then some of them in Kerala also I've seen there are a lot of institutes which are coming. But many of the well-known institutes which have faded out and new names are coming up in Chennai. Chennai was a center of learning here at one point of time. It is not permissible for a member to use WhatsApp to send messages to make people aware about this practice and mention the services provided there. How many of you are BNI members? BNI? BNI is prohibited. I hope you know. Institute came out with a clear circle. Cochin, it was rampant. Every other member was becoming part of BNI. Then I'm BNI. What is it? Board Business Network? Something. Yeah. And right from the beginning, I said, no, I'm not there. Very senior members, established shops are going there. BNI is prohibited. Whether a member in practice being a statutory auditor can prepare BRSR to audit clients? No. However, he may provide advisory service on the same. It is permissible for a member in practice being statutory auditor to be the assurance provider of a BRSR, but he cannot sign the BRSR report. Whether a member in practice being statutory auditor can engage in assignment of compilation engagement of that entity as per SRS 441. Now this typically happens. People say, sir, you are the auditor of the company and audit is going to take time. The banker wants not a provisional. This is some way we call it provisional. So you cannot have for the audit client, which is a company, you cannot give an SRS 4410 this thing and then the statute. You cannot do that. These are all ESP decisions. Sir was violent with me. Why are you doing this? It is not my version of the story. I am only here to convey what the spirit of the institute, what the thinking of the institute is, and there are good reasons to be absolutely cautious and conscious in what we are doing.
Sir, one question.
Please.
I'm not it's a practice where
Ma'am, mic is come.
it's okay, my voice except is loud.
Only for me, not for others.
So there are OEMs that ask for a certificate from the statutory auditor about the material cost content or the BOM import content and such stuff. Is it permitted?
It is allowed.
Okay.
It is allowed. Certificates are allowed.
Okay.
Certificates are allowed. PLI, you know, for example, some of the
Yes.
clients are PLI. I know when you talk about OEM.
Yes, yes.
PLI certificates are allowed. Fund utilization. For example, a corporate client ours, Kerala, we have KSIDC, here we have SIRC. So when term loan is sanctioned, the first lot, the first installment is sanctioned. Then they would be, before the second installment is sanctioned, they would ask for utilization certificate of the first. That is all perfectly allowed. But UDIN is a must. Don't leave out the UDIN. But then UDIN, where does the UDIN OGP goes to? Go to? Is it your own phone? Or to the tax practitioner? I know whether the tax practitioners here. In our office is 100% no entry for those people. And I'm also totally against this thing called AIFTP, All India Forum of Tax Practitioners, the Chartered Accountants are associated. They are the people who spoil all the good practices. There is something called a suitcase practice. In many parts of Kerala and Tamil Nadu. What a suitcase practice is. A tax practitioner would come on 28th, really, with all prepared, and all you have to put your seal and stamp. KYC is mandatory, let us be aware about it. The client information is mandatory. So, and the client file should be there. The documents should be there. At least soft copies should be there. So these people, they pollute the environment. Whether a member in practice is clear, certificate course of ICA, certificate course of India, certificate GST, etc., etc., permit such qualification on visiting cards, letterheads or other stationery. No, it is not permissible for a member to mention the name, etc., etc. However, when the diploma is awarded by ICA, the same can be mentioned in the visiting cards, etc., like DISA, I say. If the diploma is yes, but certificate course, no. Whether a member in practice can advertise their services on social networking websites? Yes, a member in practice may advertise through a write-up on social networking websites, setting out particulars or services. But there also, I think there is a restriction to put client names. You cannot say that particular, reputed client is mine. Member in practice can have YouTube channel. Members can own YouTube channel, however CA firms are not allowed to open. Can act as a mediator. Yes, a member in practice can act as a mediator, since acting as mediator would be deemed to be using, which is really permitted under Regulation 191. Can a member in practice be a sleeping partner in family business contract? Yes, a member in practice can be a sleeping partner. in a family business concern, provided he takes prior and specific permission of the council. He will, however, not be entitled to attest functions of that entity. Example we have already seen. Concurrent audit and assignment of quarterly review of same bank cannot be undertaken simultaneously, as a concurrent audit being a kind of internal audit and the quarterly review being kind of statutory audit undertaken simultaneously is prohibited under guidance of independence of auditors. It is permissible for members in practice to charge fees on a percentage utilization amount on an educational institute for certifying the amount spent by educational institute out of the grant. What did we say earlier? We are prohibited from charging fees as a percentage of the profits, the outcome of the findings, contingencies. But here is a specific case where education institute for certifying the amount utilized and spent by the education institute out of a grant. The example which I have been giving now, you can say that the amount is sanctioned. It is not permissible for a member of practice to accept appointment statutory audit of the society where immediate family member, spouse or dependent or member hold honorary position of the managing committee of the institutes governed by this society. It will be clear nexus and conflict of interest. There is no conflict of interest in a chartered accountant who is a member of the trust being the auditor of said trust. It is subject to exception where particular statute governing the trust prescribes prohibition, only then we have an issue. It is not permissible for a member to use messaging applications to send messages to make people aware about his practice and mention the service provider. Elections, it's okay. You get every day. I never used to send every day, but some members we are getting every day, morning and evening also. It is permissible for practicing chartered account holding COP to become member of the board of management of a primary cooperative banks. Similar to that of a director simpliciter. That is what it says. Member in practice cannot act as a trademark or patent attorney. However, professional advice in relation to intellectual property rights is a routine professional work for a chartered accountant in practice, and same is permissible. It is permissible for 2 or more chartered accountants to practice collectively. That we have seen already. I think there's a repetition on that GST programs. A chartered accountant in practice can act as an authorized representative of a foreign company provided he is not the auditor of such a company. You know, is something striking there? The PMLA was extended to chartered accountants. You know, the latest extension. What happened was many chartered accountants in Mumbai, it was given to understand that they were acting as agents of the banned Chinese companies, Chinese app companies. They were providing their office or residence as the office of those companies, instead of those companies, wives, spouses as their directors, and that is something which so it's better not to, particularly foreign companies, unless you have a very, very clear nexus and knowledge about this company. You know, I just checked into Hotel Ranjit and I just went out and thinking about have lunch from Opalin or not. Then a Canadian came in and just said hi to you. How do you guys manage in this heat with your jeans, shirt and shoes and all that? He was wearing casual dress. So we used to Chennai and this is all cotton. He started talking about it. I said, what do you do? I said, I'm an accountant. He said, I'm a Canadian citizen, I have my tech company, so I would like to start an entity here. That's all fine. But the moment he says that they say I don't have nobody. I don't have nobody. That's an American style of saying. I don't want to pay no taxes. So I don't have nobody, so why don't you become a director of the company? That is where you have to put a full stop. A chartered account or service is allowed to take e-return registration. It does not conflict with employment obligation. However, he cannot certify the return. In case where chartered accountant in practice non-executive director in a company, firm extra which is partner should not accept the appointment statutory of the company. It goes without saying. 144 also there is a prohibition. A chartered accountant in practice may be equity research advisor, but he cannot publish his equity research because it will tantamount to other business or occupation. Now it is very dangerous to publish equity reports. Market is very, very shaky. Did I mention that? Because a lot of funds are flowing into China. At some point of time, the slogan was ABC, anything but China. Now they say, sell India, buy China is the new dictum in the capital. And also the geopolitical tensions. Israel, and of course Israel, Iran, and then of course the continuing issues between Germany and Russia and Ukraine. Yesterday Modi ji advised Putin to stop the war in Ukraine. Chartered accountant in practice may engage himself as a registering authority for obtaining digital signatures for our clients. For clients, not only for our clients. Cannot become financial advisors or receive fees of financial institutions, mutual funds, etc. etc. That is a Bajaj, Tata Capital. Tata Capital doesn't call. Bajaj Finance is the one who calls to become channel partners. It is not permissible for CA firm to print its vision and values behind the visiting cards, as it will result in solicitation of business. That is the slide you have been waiting for, right? So these are the recent ESB decisions, and this was a run through in the last about close to 2 hours on the revised code of conduct and the professional. Yes.
This updating of DSC for the clients. Can you go back to that? Can you explain this one, sir?
Yeah, many chartered accounts are doing this, registering authority for a DSC, no? DSC, that you have to align with, I know how they do it. In fact, a friend of mine is doing it. We are getting our DSCs through him.
Okay.
So DSCs, so the practicing chartered accountant is not prohibited from becoming a registering authority for DSCs. I know what the modality is. If somebody is doing it, probably you can help us. There has to be DSC. How do you get your DSCs? Where do you get your DSCs from?
Outside vendor.
Outside vendor. So the vendor can be a chartered accountant himself.
The corporate accounting practice, generally clients wants, they are outside India and they have many directors here. In addition to compliance, accounting and reporting, they also want us to involve in, say, banking operations. I mean, they want us to become authorized signatories or...
Want us to be?
Authorized signatories. Is that allowed? There is no assurance service provided to the client, but from the corporate account.
If you're not the statutory auditor of the company, there is no restriction.
You can
do it. Yeah, absolutely no. Right. Once you're the auditor, that is where most of the issues come. But here there are prohibited services. But in this case, it is okay. That's absolutely no.
Check signing and net banking approval.
Yeah.
Corporate training. So would that be considered as a
training in any form is allowed. Normally it is done by the individual, not in the banner of a firm. From apparently what I have been seeing is that you as an individual can do. I do a lot of corporate training. In fact, I trained income tax department and ROC also. I don't know whether you know Henry Richard. He was ROC here. Henry Richard was ROC here in Chennai. Henry Richard sir, when he was ROC in Kerala, he wanted me to train the ROC staff on scrutiny of financial statements, accounting standards. And after 3 sessions, the members came to know, I said that you are a traitor. You are empowering them. You are giving them the weapons. With that, we have concluded a few sessions. So, absolutely no problem being a corporate. I think you should do that. If you have flair for that, that's a huge potential. People need guidance.
Sir, let's take a case that we are not auditing a company, but we are only taking up a tax audit engagement of an individual. And now that the PMLA is extended to across all the chartered accountants, so which means whichever engagement we are doing the PMLA, if there is any chance that the person will be punished or covered, what is the range or what is the threat that we might be also included in? Because we are not assisting any of his transactions, because being an individual need to do all his transactions. So our scope is only to do the tax audit perspective. So what if this exposure towards some transactions or money transfer is doing is can be seen as a PMLA transaction? So how are we affected in that?
Very, very difficult question to answer, but I understand that you are the tax auditor of an individual. Individual businesses, if you go to Andhra Pradesh, you have partnership firms with 1,200 crores of turnover. They call it VP, SA, Reddy, firm and all that, that's what it's called. I'm not being any regional thing, but then individual who has got a huge turnover, let's say 100 crores of turnover for an individual business, and you are doing the tax auditor and later he is found fault within some of the PMLA transactions. Very tricky question. I have no quick answer, no ready answer for that. The big question in all those situations is, you as an auditor, have you done proper diligence on all the transactions, high value cash transactions, all those things? So if you have given at least given a call in tax audit report, normally we don't qualify, but 3CB also, there's a provision. In fact, 3CB can, I'll come to that for a separate point. But 3CB also, if you have not made a mention, if there is, it's quite on the surface and it could have been detected, there's a possibility that we could be taken to task. Otherwise, it's so ingeniously laid down, deep dive is required in a tax audit and all that. I have a feeling that maybe we'll be given a lenient, that's only way of answer. Now, before I forget, Now when we have a session on standards and auditing, day after tomorrow, on 26th is Coimbatore. The last session is standards and auditing. I hope there will be somebody in the audience. And now there is a renewed awareness about the importance of standards and auditing. What is the applicability of standards and auditing in general?
It's also applicable to non-profit organizations.
Sorry?
It's also applicable to non-profit organizations, and it is broader applicability. We cannot restrict that only profit-making entities should be only for profit-making entities should not apply. It is applicable for all.
Commercial organizations.
Yeah, for all the assurance engagements where we are going to provide an opinion, it is applicable.
Yeah, I would put it slightly differently. You're almost there. Now, when I was a speaker on standards and auditing to a place like in Tamil Nadu, if I go to Vellore or go to a smaller branch, Tirupur, people tend to say, what Jomon sir or Jomon? All the standards and auditing are for Reliance and Infosys and for the suit dwellers, not for places like Tirupur or this is. Kerala, if you go to Koilon or Palka, people say. But then standards and auditing would apply whenever there is expression of opinion. Whenever there is expression of opinion, standards and auditing will apply. So in 3CB, non-corporate tax audit report, there is expression of opinion. So standards and auditing would apply. It is something which members are not aware. Whereas 3C, it is not. Because you already did the audit of a corporate or an entity which is required to be audited under any other law, and you are referring in the 3CA to that particular report. So therefore, that is not applicable. But all the documentation that you are required to do, that's why QRB is also coming in. QRB is particularly targeting non-corporate audits. There's something which people say that this is only for large corporate audits. It's not. You say, well, if true and fair appears, be careful, be extremely careful. Yeah, please. You need the mic.
When it comes to true and fair, will it impose on a statutory auditor to report on whether the company hasn't appointed a company secretary, when it has to mandatorily appoint a company secretary because it crosses the threshold limit which is kept? Will it impose a responsibility on us to report?
No, it falls in the second paragraph category of compliances where it do not have a direct impact. But for that, if there has been a penalty levied, then it opens the eye of the audit. Otherwise, no. Also, please refer SI 250, consideration of laws and regulations in an audit. And if you are in listed space, also refer to the NOCLAR under the Code of Conduct. That is where you will find the guidance. But the answer is this. Is it clear? Free platform, ask questions, advice is absolutely free.
So actually I'm a CA holding a part-time certificate of practice because I'm in employment. So whenever we see a CA in practice, would be like, actually I'm not actively not in practice because I'm only helping my friends who are in practice. I don't sign, of course I cannot sign this. So like, is everything verbatim applicable for CA in practice as such, or is there any leniency given, or is there any separate guidance for people in part-time practice?
Yes, it is there. That is, we did see that. That is, I think, part 3, I think. Any reference, it's not a regular topic. Yeah, that is part 2. Professional accountants in service, yes, in service, 200 to 299. That's specifically for, we call it members in industry.
Okay, but still I hold a COB, but it is not full-time, it is part-time.
Part-time is, with that you cannot do, with a lot of restrictions on it. You cannot do attestation, you cannot have articles and all that.
So can I get that part 3, 4A, 4B are not applicable to me?
No.
I cannot take that, right? I mean, it is not applicable.
It is not applicable because it's part-time practice.
Yes, thank you.
You are substantially, I would say that by having a part-time, you are substantially incapacitated and disabled. So therefore, it will not have full applicability.
Thanks. That was, I mean, I didn't get the answer where I go, so.
Yeah, that's okay.
are happening in the 60-day on-table period, because most of the NFRA orders which we read, it says that there are modifications to the working papers after the signing date. But I mean, even the assembly requires us to change the Excel sheet, which actually modifies the time created and everything. So what substantially happens during the document? Can we issue a management letter during that period? Can the representation letter, even if you take the representation letter and attach it to the working papers, it creates an evidence that the working papers are modified. So
no, if that kind of investigation happens, but when you get a letter of representation, or as you said, MR,
because it is on that board document.
That is a representation letter.
On the audited board document.
To that extent, it is allowed, because it is an oversight of saying that in the hurry for the thing. But the management has also agreed, saying that what is signed, that predating is allowed.
So just to understand from, as you said, as a medium-sized firm, what happens actually on that 60 days of assembly period? So, see, what we try to create is, how we assemble is.
No, what you said is right. You have to recreate. What has not been done, you have to create in the sense that LOR was left out, for example. If you forgot to get resolution approved by them, you get it backdated and you get it done, so that your document would look. Normally, after the filing season, you go for a holiday, isn't it? That's also allowed. We should do that.
Normally what happens is, after the board approves the financials, the signing takes place after 5-6 days, because the directors have to sign, and the directors have to sign, then it has to go to the signing button. And normally for listed company, etc., the board approves the financial, etc. There's some rounding off, blood running, casting, rounding off, etc. All these things happen. After the board meeting happens, the auditors takes it after 2 days. Within the next 2 days, rounding off some minor cosmetic changes, everything takes place.
After signing?
No, not after signing. After the board meeting day. Signing takes place after 3-4 days after that.
Yeah.
4-5 working days after all the directors signing, etc. Cosmetic changes, minor changes take place. So can these things can be sent by email to auditors, or auditor can send it to the client?
Yeah, once it is signed, sometimes what happens is, if they're local, they would probably send a hard copy. Otherwise, they'll sign and send a scan copy. You can take a print of it, sign, and then keep a scan copy. That's perfectly okay.
No, but before signing, before the board meeting takes place on 20th, signing takes place on 25th. Between 20th and 25th, a lot of email exchange takes place for some minor cosmetic corrections, rounding off corrections.
That's typical. Finally, once it is signed, it is final, no? Pre-signing, lot of things can happen, as you said, rounding off or some cosmetic change, a full stop, comma, etc., etc. That can happen.
But those things, after making those changes, the email exchange can happen between auditors and client?
Yeah, because the final financial statements, when they are signed and coming back, you have to essentially make sure that that is the final financial statements you are willing to sign. It can happen sometimes. They can play the tricks and say that some amount can change or some note can be dropped. That have to be extremely careful. Is that the point you want to ask? Have I answered your question?
My point is, the board approves on 20th. The signing by the auditors takes place on 25th. And signing by directors takes on signature on 21st, 22nd, etc. So before, okay, assuming auditors sign on 24th, the board sign on directors sign on 24th, and board sign on 25th. Between 20th and the 21st, lot of the Excel files or the financials get exchanged between auditors. How small minor?
Sir, that is okay. That happens every year. But once it is signed, it is final.
Okay. That we understand.
And also see a lot of balance sheets were signed by the auditor, and not signed by the directors. Why do we auditor? A client of mine last week asked, so one director is out of station, would you sign before that director? I said, no way. What is a hurry? What is a hurry in signing? There's absolutely no hurry. ROC filing, of course, with time, only 300 or 500 will jump if it goes to November. Because MGT 7 we have time till 30th November. Only for AOC 4 with the 31st or 30th October cutoff is there. But you are in a hurry, you want to go home. You'll also see it. Good that we have two new chartered accountants, Mangai and Sonia. Sonia was taking care of me during coffee time. So that she gave come to me. So I was just asking her, the newly qualified chartered accountant, so I asked about the family. She talked about her father is a Ola driver. So I asked her whether I can say this to the audience. She said, yes, I'm very happy and proud that you've come from difficult situations and you are a lot of inspiration for everyone. Maybe Mange has a similar background to you too, but then do good service to the institute. We always wanted chartered accounts in the fold of our institute. There's also somebody has joined from PwC, Sangeeta was telling me. That's a girl or boy. So good that members are in the service of the institute. Keep going, all the best. Yeah, some more questions. Somebody was asking for the mic.
Sir,
next question onwards, I will charge you, okay?
Yeah. Around the same time last year, I attended one another code of ethics class, which was taken by Advocate Ramana Kumar, okay? So he was actually giving some insights about saying disciplinary action cases that institute is going through. So he was giving insights and he was telling like we should not be accepting the certificate assignments for which someone else is a statutory auditor. So I'm just asking your opinion if people are coming to ask network certification for which the statutory auditor is actually a different person, but only for network they're coming to us. So typically I would see in the industry that builders are coming like that and they're asking to state the market values instead of the book costs. So what would you take? Should we accept such kind of assignments or we should ignore? My suggestion is we should not take up such assignments.
Jomon Kumar is a very good friend of mine. He is a CA turned lawyer.
Yes, it was very
and he represents a lot of cases in disciplinary companies. So, good friend of mine. But a lawyer's perspective is slightly different. So, his advice is not to take up certification assignments where not the statute auditing. But if you have sufficient ammunition and material, why not? That's my point. The network certification, your point, I think there's absolutely no prohibition in the first place. Two is, if you ask me that it's risky or not, it's as risky as being the auditor. Because you seek the right information on this, is a network certification. There could be something which is that network is always a slightly, vague, loose area of things. But then never put the market value as a net worth. Your net worth is your investment. See, when you go to there's a app, if you're not using it, there's an app called Wealth Elite. It's of all mutual funds. It's an aggregation mutual funds. It tells you the amount invested, the profit and the market price. And last 1 week I've been seeing the dip in it. Every morning I see a red arrow going down. Sir, don't be so happy that I'm losing money.
You're not losing that.
Then it's okay. And all of us should laugh. But then before last 2 months it was good. Every morning it was energized. It was going up 10%, 20% every day. So XIR last year for some of us, the XIR on mutual funds is more than 50%. Now they say China is 60%. They say that's why funds are flowing. So never certify the market value. It can change tomorrow. In the case of net worth, it is the real amount investment. You're saying that purchase land, industrial land somewhere near Chennai. Okay, then he's saying that it's purchased for 5 crores. Then he would come and say that, sir, last year I bought it for 5 crores, the market price is now 8 crores. You can't certify 8 crores.
But you can take the guideline value, perhaps.
Guideline? No. When you certify net worth, it is only the cost you have incurred. Cost plus stamp duty or whatever incidentals you get. Net worth cannot be. Guideline value is only when you transact next time. That is basically for determining the stamp duty.
Claim value certificate from a qualified engineer for machinery and land and building.
Yeah, you can put reliance on external valuer. External valuer is again you have to specifically say that based on valuer certificate so and so, dated so and so. And certificate you can
we have to mention both the cost and also network valuation.
No, market value for net worth you don't have to mention, but that's an additional comfort. But let us not take the risk of doing that.
No, if there is a valuer certificate is there,
then
you also have to mention the cost and also the valuation certificate.
That's also fine. But the value certificate can be substituted for cost. You're saying that, okay, this is, so I was talking about machinery, for example. But most of the time it happens for land and building. Land, building, investments in shares, securities, mutual funds, EFD, all those things. Kerala, this is very common. So for all the kids are migrating. Either Canada, Australia and all that. So Kerala is becoming a geriatric society. Sir, I'm not fully audible. The mic is coming to you.
The network certificate, the time is also very important because even valuation certificate will be on some day and the date of your bank balances or other things will be another day. So it's actually a fiduciary responsibility to certify its net worth on so and so date.
Sir, you have to freeze the date. In any case, you have to freeze it. If you are certifying the net worth as on a particular date, essentially you have to freeze. Then you cannot have flexibility. The bank, let them freeze a date and the bank certificate is all obtained. Then the client can ask the valuer to give a certificate as on that date. We can have multiple dates and say that it will be difficult. Or you can have a certificate today, then you say that the bank balance on so and so date is so much, and as per the valuation certificate, which is 3 days prior to this, is okay. That's also fine.
We are mentioning all that, but still it doesn't make any sense.
It's for the user to decide, sir. You play safe. That's what I'm trying to say. The user to say whether it is okay or not. The user is very flexible. The moment he sees your signature. That's what Modi ji said. Your signature is more valuable than mine. Yes.
My question again is to the infrastructure down in 600, sir.
Sorry, there's some problem with the mic. Yeah, please.
Audible without the mic.
Yeah, it's clear now.
No, my question is again related to striking down ACA 600, sir. Are they putting up alarming precedents? Can we expect many more such things to come which might affect the independence of the profession and the credibility of the profession as such?
It's a very, very disturbing situation now. NAFRA is National Financial Reporting Authority, which was supposed to have overseeing powers over the 3 institutes. Now, ever since the institute was founded in 1949, we had 1977 we set up the Accounting Standards Board. 1982 we set up the APC, which is now called AISB. We have been formulating standards, always taking a cue from the best international practices. 2005-06, I served the Auditing and Assurance Standards Board. When Manohar sir became the Vice President, in 2005-06, I'm talking about 19 years back, I was co-opted to the Auditing and Assurance Standards Board. But I've seen the deliberations, how deep the deliberations are and how extensive the deliberations are. And the only problem I was seeing after that is the members were not reading this and applying this. But not to stray from the point, NAFRA is flexing its muscle too much, and SA 600 is a specific issue for those who are not familiar. It is a trade-off, it's a situation interplay between the principal auditor and the component auditor. Go to an extent where the principal auditor is wanting to be given access to the working papers of the component auditor. Now, globally, what's happening is the principal auditor of a listed company is a big firm, and it has so many subsidiaries, associates, or as we call it, the other associates, joint ventures, etc., etc. These are being audited by smaller firms, where the process is what we have been discussing now. Processes, documentations are not clear, they don't ask the relevant questions and things like that. So there's a concern over quality of the consolidated picture. That is why it is doing it. But then, to answer your question directly, if NAFRA is getting into the business of formulating standards, instead of being in a recommendatory capacity, if you look at the Companies Act as recommended by NAFRA, formulation is always in with ICA. This is being lost. This is really disturbing. The council is apparently working on it, but then the thinking of the MCA, the thinking of the PMO is that institute has to play only a secondary role. And if that is the case, not to be quoted that institute's role would be reduced to a national level academic institution where we would conduct the exams and grant these degrees. So formulation of policy, very, very disturbing. Membership is not really aware of it, but then this is mostly applicable for larger spaces. But me as a competent auditor of a smaller entity, I have a challenge. Because the statutory auditor, the principal auditor would say that this firm is not good enough for this kind of an entity, though that is small. This is part of my auditor's report. So let me have a BDO or a GT coming in. I hope you understand the point.
There are how many members in NAFRA? What is their qualification?
They are qualified people. I don't have the exact constitution of it. There are three of our members on NAFRA. The ICA president is also a member of the NAFRA. Constitution is there. I think in one of the presentations I had not quickly able to recall, but that becoming a superpower. Yes, sir.
One of the partner of a control right firm has a loan. Whom is that?
Sir, you're not clear.
One of the partners of the has a loan from the branch, from the bank branch. Can the partner
Can the partner?
Can a partner be a concerned auditor? Housing loan, yes, sir. What are the partners?
I'm not getting the question clear.
One of the practicing partners for a concurrent audit bank has availed the home loan from that particular bank. Can he play the role of a concurrent auditor?
Concurrent audit, apparently there is no disqualification. That's what I feel, but my answer is not closed on that. I will double check and get back to you. Statutory audit, 100%. That's what we are saying. Even loan against FD, you are disqualified. Concurrent audit, I have to check, sir. I'm not too sure. Apparently, no. Concurrent audit is like internal audit.
EFRA is coming under Ministry of Law or?
Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Ministry of Corporate Affairs, set up under 132 of the Act. And if you remember, 132 was the last section under Companies Act 2013 to be notified. Institute tried its maximum not to have that in place. Finally, also in 2017, when Prime Minister Narendra Modi was invited as the chief guest, our Dilesh Vikamsi was the president to our Jubilee first celebrations. He had made it very clear that the PMO and the MC is not fully happy with the work of ICAI. And therefore regulatory authority was coming. So NAFRA was, we were smelling that NAFRA is going to come. But this fast, they have gained a lot of muscle. And now they are, as Geeta's, the SIRC, current SIRC chairman, Geeta called me and she said, tomorrow NAFRA chairman has been invited by Karnataka State Chartered Accountants Association for a program. And there is widespread discomfort and I would say resistance, objection against that. She was saying so, but there was an article I think Businessman saying that the business, rather some of the people, I mean not strictly in the profession, is saying that issue should be subservient to NAFRA. That's what I'm thinking. We have been set up under independent act of the Parliament. We are doing this, but the thinking I think is that we are not doing enough, and therefore somebody should super regulator has to come. These are only my views and not to be shared. It's not a very pleasant situation that we are in. Regulations, SS example is the best example. And we started with SQMs, Standards on Quality Management. So NAFRA says that the new standards of the ICAI are void. No quick solution for these issues. We have to deliberate and put all the force behind this. But then it looks slightly difficult. That's my personal opinion. Why was the disciplinary committee reconstituted with so much of external representation than the institute? Because Satyam took 10 years to be completed. The investigation and the action taken on Satyam took more than 10 years. So swifter action is required in such cases, so that is the thinking. So unless there are other points, I would like to conclude thanking SIRC once again for having me here this evening, and also for being, as Kushavudu always says, being an awesome audience. Most of you are asking questions. That's the best thing can happen to a speaker. Some questions are difficult, but we try to answer. It's not that ultimate answer I've given for all the questions, but unless there are questions, it becomes dead, it becomes a monologue. But thank you for making it a fairly good dialogue of almost 2.5 hours now. Time to sign off. Great time. So my Chennai evening is still waiting for me. Chennai night is very, for me it is Madras. But the senior theatre personalities came to SIRC and he said, Madras is an emotion, Chennai is a city. Let me move to the city and enjoy my night. Thank you. Good night.
A great honor and privilege to propose the vote of thanks. First and foremost, I thank God because He showed mercy on us. It was supposed to be conducted on 16th of October, but luckily He gave us the date. And my heartfelt thanks to a resource person, Mr. Jomon K George sir, who despite of the heavy schedule have found this time to grace this occasion. It was really an amazing section, sir. In a nutshell, I will put III for this section. Interactive, interesting, informative section. I also express my gratitude to Ramakrishnan sir and Sonia ma'am. Your story was really inspiring, ma'am. Technical members, ICAI board members for organizing such event. Last but not least, I thank all the members for your cooperation. Without you, this section won't be a great success. Finally, I leave you this Inspiring quote by Swami Vivekananda. Arise, awake and stop, not until the goal is achieved. Thank you for this great opportunity. Have a great day. Thank you.